The time being 7:05, I call to order the Franklin School Committee meeting. Okay. Meetings are recorded by Franklin TV and shown on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 29, as well as recorded by Franklin Matters. At the conclusion of our meeting, we'll be adjourning to executive session and will not be returning to open meeting. So to start off, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. So we have a Pledge of Allegiance student tonight. If you want to go ahead and step up to the microphone, make sure it's comfortable for yourself. Yeah, it adjusts right down for her. There you go. Perfect. We'll all work with you. So Wesley Klein is a student in Miss Elizabeth's class at the Oak Street ECDC. She has been a student at the ECDC for 2 years and is getting ready to head off to kindergarten next year at the Washington K-2 campus. Wesley is an outgoing, friendly, and enthusiastic member of our school community who always loves to engage with students and classmates alike. She is a wonderful friend to the classmates from her star partner class. Her favorite things to do at school are spending time on the playground, doing art projects, music, and dancing. Wesley has also been a recipient of the ECDC Good News Call of the Day, where she was recognized for being a great friend. We are so lucky to have her as part of our very special school community. Way to go, Wesley.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And then, as is customary, we'll pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. All right. So moving into routine business, a review of the agenda. Does the agenda look okay to everyone?
Motion to amend the order of the agenda and swap items 2 and 3.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, comments? So just for everyone watching, this is moving citizens' comments up ahead of our guest presentations. That's about it. All right. Seeing none, vote will come to motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Payment of bills. Callahan?
They're in order.
Payroll is in order. FHS student reps.
Hi everyone, my name is Callie Joyce and I'm the class of 2027 president, and I'm here with
Siobhan Dev, and I'm the class of 2027 vice president. So, in regards to the whole Franklin High School, registration is now open for summer strength and conditioning classes. There's a February break trip to Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands being planned for next year. During April break, the trip is to Portugal. Final exams start on the 17th and end on the 23rd. Makeup days will run from the 24th to the 25th. And class elections just took place yesterday, so congratulations to all who were elected. Additionally, as the senior class president and vice president, Keaton Miller Cooper and Jack Aldred have retired from their positions because they graduated. The incoming junior president and vice president will be attending these meetings sometimes.
For sports, both softball and girls lacrosse made it to the Elite Eight during playoffs. We want to congratulate the class of 2027 for graduating high school. For the class of 2027, this summer there's a Common App boot camp and a college essay boot camp through lifelong learning to prepare for college applications. There are no updates for the class of 2028, and for the class of 2029, they just finished their biology MCAS on June 2nd and June 3rd. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? No? Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. Superintendent's report?
Great, good evening, everyone. I would just echo the graduation ceremony was excellent, well done, and we lucked out with great weather, but ultimately a really great program that was put forth, and congratulations to the class of 2026. I have 5 announcements that I'll make. The first is a transportation update, just based on the last meeting to follow up on that. We have had a good jump to the FHS FMS out from their outreach that they did, and we did see some growth and increase in the number of riders over the past week. And we're working with the secretaries at each elementary school to assist with outreach to families individually that have registered this year, but have who are registered this year but haven't registered yet, just to do some individual reach outs to help folks, because it's a busy time and people are busy, but whatnot. So basically, at FHS, during my May update on the 27th, we have 281 riders. We're up to 329. At FMS, we've increased from 475 to 544. And Lincoln Street was 589. They're at 663. And Washington has increased from 450 to 485. So those are all increases from the May date that I last gave you a report. Moving forward, this is on the middle school auditorium lighting project. As you're aware, Senator Roush has secured $60,000 in the FY27 Senate budget earmark to support lighting upgrades to the auditorium. This was an important step to help with key infrastructure needs in that space for performances, assemblies, concerts, and community events. But I also wanted to take a moment to just recognize the Franklin Music Boosters and the Franklin Theater Boosters for their leadership, advocacy, and fundraising campaign efforts to support those improvements. Specifically, the work and leadership of Allison Murphy, Celia Courtwright, and I would add on that team of Diane Plouffe, Al Charles, and others who have helped to build momentum for this project and reflects the strong community commitment to our students and to the art programming. We're in the process of finalizing updated lighting estimates, and we have developed a phased project plan. So we're prepared to move forward once the state funding, state budget process completes and any additional funding that becomes available through our generous organizations or other areas. We're grateful for those groups and for keeping that important work happening within the school district. Next, I'm pleased to share that the Franklin Recreation Advisory Board recently voted unanimously to allocate $20,000 to from the Fletcher Fund in support of the Student Achievement Recognition Signage Project on Panther Way. This generous contribution represents a significant step forward for the project and reflects, once again, a shared commitment to celebrating the accomplishments of our students and our student athletes. And the planning is underway. The project specifications are currently under review with some official renderings for that particular project. And on behalf of the Franklin Public Schools, we just wanted to thank the Recreation Advisory Board, to the director of our Recreation Department, Ryan Jetty, for their work, and the town of Franklin for their partnership as well, because there'll be contributions happening from all of these areas to make things happen with regard to placement, signage, field work, things like that. And just wanted to also say we look forward to sharing additional steps once I have more confirmation, as I will with all projects that are happening. I don't want to also steal the thunder of one of our presentations tonight, so we'll talk about that later, but we're joined by Facilities and Operations, which will hit on a few of these things from more of a facility standpoint. Next, Little Solutions Toddler Program for the 15 to 33-month-old children. The enrollment is now open to the public. At this time, we have 5 students enrolled, giving us students per day every single day, and there's a new flyer out with a link with more information. The enrollment period is still open, and we're finalizing the supports that we'll put in place with adults for those. The Extended Day Solutions Program, as you know, there's a new kindergarten program for the 26-27 school year. That's how they've divided it out. Currently, there's 291 students placed for next year, 157 at Lincoln, 134 at Washington, and all of the students who were waitlisted as of March 19th have been accommodated in some capacity. Enrollment and waitlist remain open, and that work is ongoing, so they keep the enrollment rolling throughout the year, and they continue to work off the list as they go. And basically wanted to share the wait list currently at Lincoln. There's 8 kindergarten, 0, 1 to 2s, and, first and second, and there is 2 for 3 through 5. And at Washington, there is 7 for K, 4 for grades 1 and 2, and 3 for grades 3 and 5, totaling that number. So they're working through that right now. We currently have Little Solutions, which is a wraparound care program at ECDC, has 13 students enrolled, which is sufficient enough to run that program, and the teacher positions have been posted to make that happen. Rounding off my announcements, the Franklin Pathway Advisory Group. So together, the Office of Teaching and Learning, led by Dr. Rogers and Mrs. Morrison and Mr. Stark, who are in the audience as well, who are our curriculum directors. They worked with the principal of the high school, Dr. Weber, and the FHS Science and Math Departments heads, Jen Curley and Nikki Hafley, to host the Community Partners First Advisory Group meeting. The purpose was to inform the community partners about the opportunities and impacts of Franklin Pathways and build awareness of student career connected learning experiences to strengthen Franklin High School's network of community partners and workforce connections and connect community partners with developing advisory boards. We want to thank the community partners for joining us as we look forward to deepening and expanding these types of partnerships across our community. And thank you to representatives from Allegra, Dean Bank, Franklin Matters, Franklin Senior Center, the Hockomock YMCA, MRN Diagnostics, and the 1-8 Foundation. All of those companies had representatives there, and we're building that network. You'll hear more about that in the future when we talk about school improvement plans and program of studies and whatnot. We will be revisiting these topics, but that's an update as we round off the end of the year for those meetings. Finally, the end of school year reminders. This is a reminder to families that the last day of the 25-26 school year is Thursday, June 25th, on which this will be a half day for students. The last day for kindergarten students will be Wednesday, June 24th. ECDC's last day will be on Thursday, June 18th, and the Family Fun Fair is on Monday, June 22nd. And the elementary and middle schools will follow the half-day schedule on the final, that's wrong. The high school will have its final exam schedule take place in the final week of school with makeups. That concludes my announcements. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions from the committee or any comments? Dave?
All right, just because this is the last time I'll get to do this, transportation, when will that close?
June 18th. Thank you, Steve. Yes, June 18th.
For the folks, I know I had to do the Lincoln Street drop-off, it's not easy. The more that get on buses, and especially I just had to fill out a Google form because I was outside the 2-mile radius, and so it was for those folks, and also for folks who fill out the free and reduced kind of like meal program. It is free bus transportation, and so please kind of take a look at that. Look at your inbox if you missed it, like some people, and complete that before June 18th. I also just want to hit on the graduation. Again, it was, I don't know, many of us were there. It was phenomenal. Everybody involved did a wonderful job, but I really just want to highlight Paula, you and your staff, everyone who kind of works in the student services and special education. We've talked about the idea that by having so many of these programs that we do in-house, it's the millions of dollars that's being saved versus having to transport kids to outside our own community. We've also kind of talked about like the qualitative benefits of being able to go to school with your brother, your sister, your neighbors, your friends, and get to be invited to the birthday parties. Mm-hmm. What was also just as amazing as seeing on last Friday at graduation, those same kids also going in their cap and gowns, crossing the graduation stage, getting their diploma, shaking the superintendent's hand, celebrating with their family here in Franklin. And so it's amazing, and it's incredible work that you and your entire staff do. And just, I thank you so much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, something. Oh, back to Reese.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, okay.
But, thank you. I wanted to just say, congratulations to the class, and thank you to everybody who, separately, thank you to everyone who's been contributing to the different projects we have going on. I wanted to mention the scope document that Colin put together. I think it's a fantastic summary of what we're looking to do at the middle school. And I was wondering if this has been shared outside of school committee. Has it been shared with the boosters or other people who are involved in this project?
That project was shared with the boosters. It was, as a project plan, just to make sure we're on the same page with the project itself, the funding estimates. We're still waiting for information back from the quotes from the folks that do that type of work, like lighting and whatnot, but that was shared. We did not post it out publicly. It's not a secret necessarily, but it was just something that internally we finished last week and wanted to make sure that school committee and our booster organization had that as a piece. So it definitely would be something that we would be happy to share out more broadly, but I think it would be helpful if we could get really clear on the numbers. So in the next 2 weeks, we anticipate having an actual quotes for the lighting, for example, actual quotes for other components, so that it's an actual tangible, real document, that we don't have to backtrack if it gets out publicly and people have old versions. So that's typically why we wait, when we can confirm. But yeah, thank you for your feedback on it.
Yeah, no, very, very good. The reason I ask is because I feel like from a perspective of somebody who maybe is thinking about giving money here, this
Yeah.
document would instill so much confidence that the
Oh,
people
good.
who are doing this know what they're talking about, have been really thoughtful about it, and are not looking to be wasteful. So
Oh, thank you.
I think it's an excellent summary. That's all. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. All right, so now we're going to be moving on. So next on the agenda is citizens' comments. So are there any citizens in the audience, in person or online, who would like to comment on an item that falls within the committee's purview? If so, please come up to the mics.
I'm a little taller than the previous person. Yeah. So, hi everyone, Celia Courtright, 213 Peck Street, also president of the Music Boosters. So, yes, I will acknowledge we did receive the phased document approach and have read it and have been discussing it and things like that. I'm here to just kind of broadcast a little bit more that we have had a very generous donor step up who has offered to match our donations 1-for-1 for the next $25,000 in this capital campaign. So this is a really great opportunity for anybody listening who has not donated to donate so that we can really move the needle even further on this. I believe we're around a little over 32,000 raised so far. And so, you know, if we get the full match with this, I mean, that includes some of that, but we'll get to around 75,000, I think is if we make the full match amount. So that would go a really long ways. And we worked with the, basically with the school administration to come up with a list of things. And more than just the school, middle school auditorium, there's some targeted fixes to the high school auditorium that are going to prevent it from getting into the state that the middle school auditorium is in. Some little fixes to the sound system to make it work a little bit more regularly. Getting more choir risers, because we have so many kids involved in choir, they don't fit. So like small things like that, it's $2,000 here, $3,000 there, but it adds up. And donating to this campaign is not just going to help the middle school auditorium, it's going to help all of the music and theater programs at both the middle school and the high school, and really just allow us to be in a much better place. And so appreciate everyone's support. And again, if you haven't donated, take advantage of the match while it's up. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hello, I'm Jamil Adams. My wife said don't use my angry voice, so I'm not going to do that. And I hope you don't hold it against me that I got a Knicks hat on. This is a good thing. This is a pride thing. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about love for a little bit. And during this time in our lives, there's all kinds of energies that sometimes want to divide us. And sometimes that energy finds its way into our schools. And when that happens, I think many of us think that's when we should pour more love into the schools, into our scholars, into our teachers, into our community. Yeah, makes sense? I think that's we should do that more often. And so as a member of our community and also as a member of what we have here called the Freedom Team, there are a number of people on this team that are experts in pouring love and their expertise, from folks that are clinicians to other folks that are clergy folks and folks that do equity work in different districts and things like that. And so I wanted to make it known to the school committee that we have these resources available, and oftentimes for free. Folks just want to be in this space to take care of our community, to show love, to pour more love into our community when something happens. Because oftentimes when these things happen, whether it be of hate or bias, people want blood, they want to villainize the child and things like that. That's not what we should be doing. That doesn't help. That doesn't build community. That's not bridge building. That's building walls. And so what we should do, again, pour love, but doing it in the right way and having appropriate responses. What I'm talking about is making sure that the teachers are not alone, the principals are not alone, the superintendent is not alone, and that you as a school committee are not alone, that there are folks in our community that are with you that want to assist in appropriately addressing issues when they happen, so that we can be a part of the energy that assists in shaping the culture that we have in our schools. That's one of love, and that is built on us making sure that every child and every staff member and every member of our community gets to feel some of that love and a little bit of that every time they're in the building. The other piece is there's this framework that I actually put together myself. Is based on love, inclusion, and trust. And I want to offer that out to the school committee and for folks to explore and see that we want to add that into what we do in our schools and talk about how that may play a role. It's things that we've done in other districts that are working, that are effective, to make sure that every child feels that love and feels that level of inclusion, that their trust, because at the end of the day, that's what we want folks to feel: love, included, and that they have trust in folks. In fact, when we talk about trust, we want it to be the thing where we have this thing in education when we like to say we want every child to have at least one staff member that they can trust in every building. My response to that is, why can't it be 14, 15, or everybody in the building? And all it takes is us having a movement as a district that shapes some of that. And so that's what I'm talking about today. I wanted to put that out there. And I want to offer to anyone who, see, I'm not like you, Dave. You were good looking at the camera and all that, looking at the people. But I'm over here, so I don't know how to look at the camera content. But anyone that's watching, I want to offer the opportunity for us to get together, and we can work together to assist the school committee, to assist the principals, assist the superintendent, and everybody to do these. I know we're at the end of this year, but this is the perfect time to put some things in place for next year. And it's not about the money and charging people things. It's about really creating a space and being an example and a model of how it looks when a community works together to make sure that ours is a community of love, inclusion, and trust, and that we're working together to move things forward, particularly when something happens and it's ugly. That our kindness is not limited to when things are great, but it's also present when things are unfortunate as well. So again, anyone, you can connect with me, or Lucas got my information and stuff like that. But Jamil Adams and Franklin, I appreciate y'all. Thank you very much. That's it. Thank you. All right.
Anyone else? No? Okay. All right, so then moving right along into guests and presentations. Lucas?
Okay, so we'll be inviting up our operations and our facilities department. Operations led by Colin Boisvert, and our facilities led by Kevin Harn, and his assistant, who is John Eason. So they'll be here, they're providing an update, and just to provide a scope, the task was everything that they've worked on in any school building from July 1st, 2025, and what's anticipated through June 30th of 2026. So this entire school year, basically, try to provide a summary. It's only 3 hours, so it's not too bad. To just really provide context, I know that there are a lot of things that happen that we see visibly. There are things that happen behind the scenes, and this felt like a good time to take a moment for you as a school committee and the community in general to see the work that's happening. And just on a separate note, we're fortunate we have a very good partnership with our facilities department, and the work that they've accomplished through the district reorg. I just want to thank you publicly, Kevin, and thank you, John, Colin, for the work that you did to make sure that all of those moving parts happened from your vantage point. So we appreciate that, and thank you, and I'll kick it over to you all.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, I do want to echo that too. I think that we had an amazing partnership through the entire reorganization process. As complicated as the project itself was and anything surrounding it, we worked really closely, really well together to make it successful. Kick into it. So yeah, we'll kick right off with district reorganization. For those who didn't know, we reorganized. So we'll start with the moving timeline. So we actually had three separate moves, three separate moving dates over the summer. The main move was in July. It was a couple weeks that worked at Lincoln Street, Washington, Franklin Middle, and Parmenter. The second move was in August that primarily did ECDC Oak Street and Pond Street. And the reason why we had two separate main moves was for the summer programming that was simultaneously occurring while we were trying to reorganize schools. We were able to provide a cleanup move in August 28th and 29th. This is after staff was able to come and see their new spaces and for us to be able to get in and get any loose ends before school started. Some of the items moved and processed in the move, lots of furniture, supplies, books was a big project within the library spaces. Touch views and technology equipment was moved and mounted. And then a lot of trash and surplus was processed.
Yeah, as far as on the bottom right hand, the software updates, printers, access control, phone systems. We want to make sure, to Lucas's point, and working very closely with Colin, it was as seamless as possible when everyone went to school the very first day. So when you called and picked up the phone, we wanted to make sure it said Washington Elementary, or even in situations like ECDC having, now on Oak and Pond, any type of transfers or phone numbers moving also went smoothly. The software updates, access control alone, everybody moved. So where you used to live and now you live in a different building, or maybe now you live in two different buildings that you weren't assigned to previously, all that had to be changed, updated. Also during summer programs happening, so having to make sure that people had access in and out of the building all summer long, in conjunction with planning for someone to have a completely different access come September. Where there used to be a printer, or now there isn't one there, providing power and then data drops so that when you do move in, printers work, you can make copies. Another software update is our work order system, our CMMS software. In FY25, we did almost 3,000 work orders, comparative to 2024, where we did almost 2,000. And then Colin, I also just remembered, we had a separate document that was not captured in the almost 3,000 work orders, because Colin and I, along with other facilities individuals, we wanted to make sure that we prioritized our short summer window for moving, and whatever we could capture within, obviously, funding, but also bandwidth within our team's capabilities. That's not in those 3,000.
No, yeah, and I think a lot of those projects that we'll talk about in this presentation too, we really put them on a separate list aside from work orders, because we had our regular work, or you had your regular work orders coming in, and we needed to track all of these projects specific to reorganization because it was time sensitive.
Yeah.
So altogether, 356 rooms, offices, spaces were moved across the district, and in our 5 buildings that moved. So just a huge scope of moving around. Again, furniture, supplies. It was a big puzzle. So some of the projects on ECDC Pond, you can see here that was completed over the school year, between the summer and the school year. A big one for district-wide that you see is new signage. You can see the example of that in the picture for Early Childhood Development Center on Pond Street. Every single building got new signage. And specifically at this site, there was some enhancements to the exterior of the building with new fences and some enhancements to the playground as well. And inside the building, a huge project for facilities was updating all of the outlets in the school to become safety outlets.
Yes.
For Lincoln Street, you'll see another picture of line painting where the number 2 is on the bottom right. Every building got fresh paint as far as the arrival and dismissal painting for lines and marking areas and to help with the flow of vehicles around school buildings. Here in this building, there was a lot of interior projects completed. Anyone you want to jump on?
I would just say between Lincoln Street and Washington Street, you'll probably see a lot of similar projects that happen because I think both of them were, again, very comparable. But with Lincoln Street in particular, you know, what maybe used to be an office space is now a safe space. So any, you know, electrical work, if there was, you know, outlets on the wall, it can no longer be there. All the science rooms, again, a lot of this is, you know, very comparable to the same work that would happen at Washington Street. But, you know, what used to be a science lab for 7th or 8th grade, you know, it was cut, cap, make safe so that, you know, as far as like gas or eye-wash stations, because it's no longer being used as a science lab. And then other projects that just happen to hit us between 2025 and even this year now. The elevator at Lincoln Street, the gym unit AHU repair, and we're moving forward with having to make some repairs in the IDF room over at Lincoln Street.
Another big project here was the playground expansion. This was a CPA-funded project which added new surfacing to the playground, making it larger for the volume of students that were going to be out there at a time, and added some additional play structure as well. As Kevin said, a lot of similar types of work. Both of these buildings had a middle school component and an elementary component, and now becoming a full K-5 elementary, moving the middle components to the other, the now current Franklin Middle. Any particular project here?
No, I mean, again, very similar between having to set up Lincoln Street and Washington because they're both now K-5. You know, from a high level, trying to work with the teams because, you know, with the access control stuff, you know, when do these doors now lock and unlock? And, you know, entrances and exits for the most part would probably be the same, but how are people going to move throughout the building and what's going to be the best approach and how do we set up the systems to work the best way for us?
Another project you'll see district-wide here is the touch views. There were quite a few touch views that were moved around the district. Classrooms that were the function of them was changing, the need was changing, so the height on a lot of these needed to be adjusted as well. Going from a middle school to an elementary school, we needed a lower touch view, and at the middle school, we would need to raise some of the touch views that were on the elementary side, so they were all appropriate height for learning. Also at Washington Street, we had to, there were some science lab classrooms that had a big demo table in it, and if you want to jump and talk about that.
Yeah, so there were these instructor lab tables that were almost smack dab in the middle of the room, and both, you know, all equipped with, you know, electric, water, gas. So when you remove the island, obviously you're just kind of left with just the concrete floor. So after making safe, you know, having to, you know, find some VCT to match the best that you can, and then, you know, fix the floor so this way it's safe for, you know, for people to walk on. It was a project that was interesting, didn't anticipate doing, but it was definitely needed. And at the very bottom, I'm noticing, I don't mean to skip over it from Lincoln Street, but throughout this entire move process, we also had LED lighting upgrades that happened in every single school building. And similar to updating your phone from the iPhone 12 to the 13 or whatever it is now, but the LEDs that were already throughout the schools were upgraded to more efficient and newer LEDs. And a lot of those are also funded with energy efficiency programs.
Here's a list for Franklin Middle School projects that occurred. A big one, again, district-wide, was a lot of wall repair and fresh paint in main hallways and in common areas. I think that's one of the biggest things you see when you walk into these buildings, and just that feeling of like a new community and having that fresh sort of feel in these spaces. And that happened at every building as well. Another one particularly here was the locker installation. Do you remember how many? There was like, what, 700 lockers or something like that?
That sounds about right. Yeah, it was maybe 7 or 8. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Also making sure, I mean, getting the lockers on there so that, you know, the school can operate and move in just ready to go. But if there was, again, it could have been an electrical outlet, it could have been a fire alarm light that was on the wall, so having to coordinate to make sure that the building stays safe, lockers get installed. The Horace Mann Oak being retrofitted to one big middle school was, you know, certainly probably more of a task than setting up Lincoln and Washington to be K-5. Definitely with I remember the computer lab rework, having to add additional power, bring additional data drops, so it could be set up for computer lab. And same thing, it wasn't with the access control, after having moved everyone, it wasn't until, fortunately, when John came on board, realized in our access control system, I still had everything labeled as, you know, Annie Sullivan or Remington Jefferson, because at the time, in summer 2025, it wasn't the top priority. So we finally got around to, it's now labeled appropriately.
These list of projects at these schools during 356 space move was definitely an intense summer, but on top of that, we also had some Franklin High School projects as well that occurred. There were a good amount of exterior projects that you can see in the photos here. So Kevin had talked about the LED lighting. They also did the same lighting upgrade to all the field lighting as well. We also did some traffic direction changing, as far as how there was a one-way that we changed to enhance arrival and dismissal. That's worked off really well. And the bleachers was a huge project as well.
Yeah, the bleachers was a huge project that I believe was like funded with ARPA funds, but it took some time to hit the ground running and actually kick this project off. So I'm very happy to say the new bleachers, as it seats 435, I believe, and it was well used, especially Friday. I don't think there was an empty seat in the house. Other project at the high school, at the tail end of 2025, or maybe the top of it, but upgrading the NVR over at the high school, so this way that it can support the camera system moving forward for how we plan to upgrade cameras and grow. And then our access control server also just recently got upgraded over April break. But one of the projects that I'm really happy that got completed was specifically bringing the lockdown system and incorporating it and putting it into the fire alarm system. I think it's a much better location for that system to be. it's been tested, and it was just one that I'm happy to see it live in the fire alarm system now.
So I'm going to run through a couple different forms of project funding sources that were utilized in this year's projects, but also looking into next year's projects as well. So funding a lot of these projects are capital requests. We've been going through that process for the last few months, where we put together a list of projects that are investments in our facilities and are awarded through the town council's free cash, short-term revenues, and bond. So we get allocated funding sources just like every other department from capital funding. Community Preservation Act, the CPA funding, I'd mentioned that for the playground. This is dedicated local and state matched funding. It's eligible for projects that are related to historic preservation, open space, recreation, and affordable housing. This again is projects that we have to put to our Community Preservation Committee. Projects get voted on, and the funding is available, and its purpose is to spend on these projects. So the CPC has to vote it in. It then recently went through the FinCom and will be going to Town Council for approval for next year's tomorrow, I believe. Earmark funding is another one for this upcoming year. This is competitive state funding that is designed through the legislative process for specific projects. These are competitive, so we have to put out projects to government, and they will award based on how they would like to evaluate these proposals, but it is in competition with potentially other projects that other communities are submitting as well for funding. Donation funding, these are voluntary contributions from individuals or businesses. These donations get approved by the school committee for specific projects, and once the funding is obtained through these sources, we can pursue a project. So department budget, the food service department revolving account can pay for projects that are supporting the food service program. The food service department is a self-sustaining department, and the revenue it generates pays for its expenses, as well as any other projects that pertain to enhance the food service department. It's important to know that all of these funding sources so far do not impact the operating budget on the town or the schools. These are aside from that. The next two funding sources would affect the town operating budget. So facilities department funding would be projects that are facilities related that would be processed through the facilities department funding in the operating budget for the town. And then the same thing for DPW. It would be a DPW project that's funded through their department budget, which is from the operating budget on the town.
Can I just pause for a minute, Colin? Just some gratitude. I look at that board across the way. There's a lot of folks involved with every one of these areas. Just specifically, I'll just run down. If I say community preservation, that's through the Community Preservation Act. So I would say a shout out to the committee that approves those, and also our town administrator for orchestrating that and getting that into our system. The next is earmark funding, so our state reps like State Rep Roy and our Senator Roush, who have earmarked monies that we've discussed about the middle school projects, for example, and the middle school library and auditorium. We look at donations. You heard tonight our booster organizations donate across the board for each of the booster areas to try to help support us. Food service, Colin, just for you to say, when we need a kitchen upgrade, like a walk-in cooler is it's from 96 and it needs to be upgraded, that's coming right from that budget. It's not something that gets requested in other areas. It's a way that Colin's able to just be strategic about replacements, so thank you. And then when I look at facilities in DPW, you have Kevin here, Brutus leads DPW. There are many projects that happen within our schools where the largest footprint, where those funds that they have within their operating budget to maintain come out of their budgets to make a lot of the work happen, and that's through their budgets that are approved from the town and from the town administrator as well. And just as a school committee, thank you, because you approved capital requests so that we can push those forward. CPA, and I think about some of the funding, and some of the projects that we've prioritized are all done in collaboration and with oversight from you all as a committee. So just in general, I probably left someone off, but wanted to just say, oh, and capital, did I mention capital? And you mentioned it, Colin, already, around the town council approval of capital funding through the recommendations and whatnot in the town administrator. So I think we're fortunate to have all these sources, and I appreciated this slide, but there's some gratitude embedded in there that I thought was worth recognizing. Thank you.
Thank you. And these 7 funding sources is what funding the projects for this summer into fall as well. So looking at our current projects for district-wide, do you want to jump and talk a little bit about these?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to like what happened over at the high school. So the NVR had already been replaced, so we're going to continue with, now that the NVR is replaced, the security cameras, that have to get upgraded or adjusted, or we're gonna continue with those improvements. We have a list, and it's not just the high school; it's district-wide. Access control, as I stated, are the main server that the majority of the schools all live on. Is it's a Linnell S2 product, and it is a proprietary system. But we just recently upgraded the server to it. So John and I are actually working with our authorized dealer on getting some additional training and setting up some other users to strategically operate the system a little bit more efficiently.
Classroom infrastructure. This one's pending additional capital funding. There's an upcoming vote at Town Council. If that funding is allocated, we'll be able to pursue additional wall repair, painting, and some flooring projects as well with this funding. At Franklin High School, we have a few CPA funded projects. Pending that the CPA funding is approved, we'd be looking to do some repairs and paint at the tennis court surfacing. This project is interesting because it's the only tennis court in town. So it is actually a pretty important project for a CPA to be able to fund. The track repairs at FHS as well would be pending a CPA award too. And then the chiller coil replacement as well would be pending the additional capital funding pending that vote. At Franklin Middle School, we had talked a little bit about the auditorium Phase 1 projects. I don't want to take sole credit for that project document. It was definitely a group effort. And yes, we will be getting our firm quotes. The reason why we don't have firm quotes right now is that the landscape of how much that would cost changes so rapidly. So we had quotes when we were looking into this project, but because pricing changes so fast, we need to request newer updated quotes. So that's why we have a range right now, because we are anticipating from the original information we have that there will be some adjusted pricing with what's going on. So a lot of vendors are not locking in prices for a long period of time. So this project is funded by earmark funding and donations. At Franklin Middle, there'll be some courtyard tree trimming that occurs. and that's being covered by the DPW's department budget. And do you want to talk a little bit about lockers?
After we installed the lockers over last summer and working with Craig, they've since lived the school year with the lockers being placed where they are. And it was requested that if it's possible, relocating a section of lockers to another spot in the facility would just help things move around, like logistically. And I called the vendor that helped install the lockers, and they came out. Fortunately, had thought ahead, and when we installed these lockers, installed them in such a way that taking them off the wall and relocating them, it's not a heavy lift. So we intend to be performing that this summer.
At Lincoln Street, we are going to be resurfacing the courtyard. This project is interesting as well. It's going to require a big boom crane to go over the school to help remove some of the existing surfacing, and then there'll be a new fresh coat. This project was needed due to the playground that was existing on the courtyard had been falling apart as it was aging, and has left some surfacing repair needs. So this project is earmark funded and will begin this summer. At Washington Street, this project for the basketball court probably won't occur this summer. We're looking at the logistics of procurement for this project. It may be on the docket for later next school year, but is pending a CPA funding award as well. We are using the food service department funding to renovate the kitchen, walk-in freezer, and refrigerator. This has been done previously at the middle school and at Lincoln Street. Again, this is from 1996 at Washington, and will be taken down to the studs, new insulation, new lighting, new compressor, brand new system for that school. The student activity area paving is going to be grant funded. This is an area in the back of the school that'll be utilized for student activities and potentially some additional recess space as well. And then you want to talk about the last two for Washington?
I mean, the boilers over at Washington are original to the building. They had a tough winter, and they need some major PMs that we intend to do over the summer. And then one of the compressors on the chiller needs to be replaced. But actually, I was going to say, Colin, is I kind of wanted to stay on the last slide, but I'll say it now and kind of reiterate what Lucas, I think, was also saying, just to drive it home from a facilities perspective. Regardless of the project or the funding source, whether it was past, present, or future, facilities and all the departments, I believe, we collaborate and work with each other. We have the same vision, the same goal. These facilities are a reflection of us. So we want them to look good. We want people to be comfortable when they're in there. So when we have projects that come up, we work with. If it's a school building, then we work with the schools. If it's the senior center, then we work with Sarah. If it's the library, we work with Felicia, the police chief, the fire chief, and so on. So we regardless of the project, we all share the same vision, and just try to improve on anything.
We also wanted to give a little bit of a preview on some possible future projects that are going to be coming around as well. So district-wide projects, the phone system upgrades. We had a demo in May, and facilities is interested in rolling out to central office this fall, and pending that, we'll continue to expand after that.
Yeah, so the phones that are in not just the town buildings, but the schools, it's your classic commercial, like NEC product. Those phones are essentially like a legacy product. We actually, I'll give the credit to my predecessor, actually purchased some extra phones because you cannot get the supply for the phones anymore. So we have a limited supply of phones to get us through probably like the next 3 years when we're gonna stop receiving support. And the phone systems, we work very closely with the IT director, Tim Raposa, and it seems like we're heading towards the direction of a virtual phone system. So we did have a demo of what that would look like, and I'm excited and eager about it. The other point that I'll drive home is the current system that we have, it does not comply with the new E911 laws, Carey's Law and Ray Baum's Act, that all have to, they all relate to being able to dial out 911 in the event of emergency, but also when that call is received, that from the outside, they can directly call that line back, and as well as pinpoint exactly where that call was from, what building, what floor, what room. And going to a new phone system will then have us compliant with the new laws.
You want to jump into this one, Tim?
Building management system upgrades. So the current building management system that we are on right now, similar to the phone system, is a legacy product. It stopped receiving support in probably 2002. So John and I are working on upgrading our building management system that ultimately is in every single building, with the exception of the high school. The high school has its own building management system. Hats off to my predecessor. I think in other communities, every building you go into could be a different building management system. Franklin's set up very well. We have two, one of which, again, does 90% of all of our facilities. It's just a very old system. So we're working on upgrading it. So the lead remediation, might get my dates a little off here, but it actually kicked off. It started with the DPW. The DPW got a free pilot program in, I think it was 2023. So we got free testing done. All the schools, the water and every fixture was tested after the test results were complete in 2004. We then provided some remediation actions, whether that be signage, so that whatever the thresholds of the results that came back, it's you don't want to drink, you can wash your hands in it, but it's just not for consumption. Ones that came back and the levels were so high, it would either had to be cut, capped, and removed, or well, no, it was cut, capped, and removed. But now where we're at in 25 and more is what we're trying to do is actually replace the fixtures that tested high for lead. It's not cheap. I did actually Jonna had sent over a potential grant opportunity, which I did go down. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to get us all the way there. I'm still working with the gentleman that came out, and I'm going to continue working with them on a specific grant, but I think it's only going to be able to replace maybe half a dozen fixtures, whereas we're looking at 60 or 70 that got to get replaced throughout the district. But the good thing is we're in line, we're on track, and we have a plan, and we're working on it.
And that all fountains are safe to drink from.
All water filling stations fountains
Yes.
were prioritized with new fixtures, and they're safe to drink. So this is the sign, where you're talking about where there's currently a sign.
Correct.
Those are
Correct.
what we're slowly moving towards, and we're in compliance.
Yes.
saved me a couple emails.
So at Franklin High School, we are looking at collaboration with a few different stakeholders, but about installing a student achievement sign. This is really being fundraised by Booster Fundraising, and there's been some other donors as well. Lucas had mentioned in his superintendent's report. Right now, this project is with a designer who is going to draw up the drawings and specifications for this project, and we are awaiting the cost estimate and the fundraising goal for this project.
As I had mentioned, that the high school is the one building that it's on its own building management system. However, the remote control to manipulate the boilers remotely it's not there. You can go in and I can turn on and turn off chillers or adjust air handlers or rooftop units or fan coil or fan powered boxes, but for whatever reason the boilers being able to remotely manage them is not there. So I got some pricing, put it in for capital. It would be nice to be able to manage the boilers remotely in the event of an emergency, and that's what the request was for.
And it's also, the Horace Mann Legacy is a subcommittee, a school committee subcommittee that's currently working to look at ways that we can honor Horace Mann's legacy within the campus of Franklin High School and Franklin Middle School and ECDC Oak. So there may be some projects related to this that help with branding or honoring Horace Mann's legacy. At Franklin Middle School, a future project is looking at the life skills room. This is a room that is dedicated for programming and for skills to be gained or practiced for various programs. We are meeting with the FMS team to kind of develop the scope on this, and this could actually fit really well for a possible earmark funding once the plans are completed. Looking at the media center or library, we do have a grant award for this project. This is looking at updating the space, and right now it's with staff and student engagement at the middle school for ideas on what the different stakeholders in that community are looking for a design and different features. This project also has a possible earmark funding as well, in addition to the grant award to get this one done. For courtyard revitalization, there is earmark funding. I talked a little bit about the courtyard surfacing at Lincoln Street and some of the tree trimming that is being done at the middle school. There is additional earmark funding to kind of look at how else we can enhance these spaces. Right now, we are looking to finish our concept design is in process, and once we have that, we'll be able to kind of move forward with the next steps on that.
So the fire alarm panels, much like the phone system and our larger building management system, at the middle school, it is a simplex panel, and again, it's with it simplex, so it is a proprietary product, and it's also a legacy product. It's no longer being supported by Simplex.
At our elementary schools, at Lincoln Street, we are looking at the traffic project or a traffic management project. Beta completed their traffic study and provided us with alternatives, and we are currently working with different stakeholders, such as Franklin Police, Town Engineering, various the principals as well, and we're we're working on our alternative selection and as well as looking out for a funding source that can help address this as well. At Washington Street, we are out to bid for an OPM for a request for quote.
Yep, it's out right now. We have a site visit scheduled for the 26th. So as soon as school's out, OPMs will be in the building, taking a tour, getting a look at it. We'll see the entire building, walk around it, definitely take a look at the mechanical room, but project expected 28, 29. Very looking forward to getting this going. And again, like the middle school, both Lincoln and Washington also have those simplex panels. They're fine, they work. It's what I also like to kind of think of this as an opportunity, because when we do finally replace the fire alarm panels with new fire alarm panels, hopefully we pick something that is not a proprietary product, so that it is a lot more competitive for routine maintenance. Because right now, with it being proprietary, having to have someone come in and do maintenance on the fire alarm is pricey. So knowing that we need to replace them is not the worst thing.
So these are just a list of the projects that are kind of like on the horizon. We just wanted to kind of keep you informed of what's going on in the planning. This list is definitely not exclusive and can change over time, of course, but what we see as kind of like next steps in projects that definitely the school committee should be aware of. So thank you for listening to us, and we're happy to take questions.
Well, thank you very much. Steve, any questions?
Yeah. Thanks for the detailed presentation. I think last week you spoke about the facilities update, and yeah, thank you for that. One question on this. So a lot of things are marked as pending CPA approval and pending capital funding, right? And for example, there is a tennis court renovation which is needed. So does this mean if we don't get the funding, we will not be able to run the program next year, or what is the impact?
Which project was it specifically? Oh, the tennis courts?
Yeah.
This is...
Not just tennis courts. I'm just saying, if whatever the funding we are waiting for approval,
Yeah.
what is the impact if we don't get it?
So a lot of it would be about deferred maintenance to these spaces. So, it would just create a more expensive project in the future. It would potentially harm some of so the condition it is now, it's only going to get worse, and again, may require a larger repair in the future. When you're looking at the basketball court at Washington Street, that project's they've been trying to do that project for a while at DPW, and the funding just hasn't been there for it. You can't play a basketball game on that court. There's just too many cracks. There's too many. It's just not proper for that space. It is heavily used during recess as well. So it's just for upkeep and being as user-friendly and safe as possible. It's just that it's the right time to request these projects.
Yeah, it's better to have the impact on these projects, when we're requesting, so that we'll be able to show that can we run the program or not, if this is not going to be approved, right? So that kind of impact should be good if we can add it.
Absolutely. And I think, again, when you talk about tennis courts, they really are the only ones in town. So we really do want to keep those as nice as possible for community and school use.
I have a couple of them. So next question is on the budget. So what is the facilities budget for 2025, 2026, and where are we in terms of consuming that budget?
So facilities has like a little bit like a $9 million budget, and as of last week, we were just under 90%. So the facilities budget also, I like to break it up. A third of it is probably salaries, and then when you take that out, what you're remaining with, half of it is just electricity and gas.
Mhm.
So it's those remaining funds that then take care of water, taking out the trash, taking care of your life safety equipment, repairs and maintenance on anything and everything else. So it burns up rather quick.
Yeah, I understand. It'll be great if you can get the visibility of what was last year's allocation for new projects for the school year 2025-26, and how many we have completed. And so that will give us, know where we stand in terms of completing those projects. As well as, when we go into the next year, we can have the same model of like, what was our budget approved for the capital initiatives and how much we accomplished by end of the year, like whenever we give the presentation like this. It'll be great to have that information.
So the one thing I want to comment on there is, Kevin just said it kind of as an aside, but the capital part of it is definitely a big cost. And for us, I think it fluctuates because again, it operates within facilities, coordination with us. But the part that we don't necessarily think of as often as we probably should is that other third of their budget, that is all the manpower.
Yeah.
And that's something that,
Yeah.
not saying they supply for free, but it doesn't always come through in the conversations nearly as well. So like if you watch tomorrow night during the town budget, there'll be a couple of items that are brought up as like specifically for us. We can probably go back and look at that for last year.
Yeah.
But that's the other part that's always tricky. I just want to flag it. Like,
Yeah.
I know it's that next stage of what you're asking, but for everyone watching.
So when I see this presentation, right, so I wanted to see how we have done, what we have done versus what we have planned, right? So
Yeah.
like basically planned versus actual. But that we couldn't get that kind of a report. We know a lot of things have accomplished, but we don't know how much was planned.
Yeah, so I think just about everything that we had earmarked and funded, or of all the funding requests for facilities for us this year
Yes.
have been completed.
And to your point, I think what might be helpful is the presentation that, Colin, you presented last spring on what the reorg moves would be. We did a presentation on specifically the facilities-related items that needed to happen. That might be helpful information to call back up. But ultimately, this was a regroup. So everything that you saw on there were the items. I can't think of anything on there that was not proposed and done. But to your point, not seeing it, I think I understand what you're asking, but ultimately, we have the information from last year when we set out on this project for the fiscal year, so point taken.
Just one more question on the Lionel S2 servers. You said that's a proprietary system that we have, a contract with a company. What is the fallback of that? It goes down or something, is there a fallback, or do we depend on them? Because these are all access control systems, right?
Yeah, so actually, here in Franklin, we have 2 access control systems. So
Okay.
one of which is Linnell S2, and the other one is KeyScan. Most of the, I'll say, all the schools are pretty much in S2. And then the buildings that are on KeyScan would be like the senior center, the DPW, facilities building, a handful of others. But when you say like what would be the fallback to
Failover plan.
a failover, I don't know. I mean, fortunately, I've never been in the master server lives over at the high school. The high school has other redundancies as well as a big old generator too, so.
Okay.
I've never, actually, one of the projects that happened last year was, so the phone systems live actually in this building. And in 2004, we put a generator on the backside of this building to support, not the whole building, but it backs up the panels that take care of the MDF rooms, so this way, this way the phone
Okay.
system stays.
And the servers are mirrored in 2 locations.
Yeah.
That I think the tech department would speak to, but to your point around, it's a mirrored system where if one went down, it can be pulled up on the other server that's at a different location than here, which I will not disclose because we need 2 spots.
It's your garage.
Can I have one more?
Yeah, please do.
One last question on the beta traffic the feedback is completed, you said, right? So is there any update you can give on what is that outcome of that beta traffic pattern?
We did a traffic update presentation during reorg. I think as we're looking at the different possible projects, I mean, we're going to be putting together a plan to present that will show our recommendation for it, and will likely result in the need to submit for a request as well.
Similar to that lighting plan that you saw, we're planning something very similar. I think it'll be some options. Some solutions are very expensive. Some are less expensive, but maybe don't offer the same, just like you'd expect in any project. But I think that will be part of the discussion that we need to have around what makes the most sense, and then we'd have to figure out how we would fund those types of projects. So it's definitely something that's a future project, and it was called out, but there's no solid plan yet on what the actual plan would be.
Thank you.
Awesome. Reese?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the presentation, and look forward to hearing more about the upcoming projects as they proceed. I don't have any questions, but I did want to just comment on something you had said, Kevin, about your own personal investment and pride in the work, and I just want to express appreciation for that. I think I see it among a lot of the staff and leaders we have here in town, and as a resident here, it's really meaningful, so thank you for that. I'll pass the...
Nadia?
Thank you for the presentation. As somebody who project manages on an infinitely smaller scale, I have a true appreciation for what you accomplished in less than 2.5 months' time. And I hope the community looks at this and it's eye-opening. I mean, there's so much work and scheduling and organization involved, and it's just a testament to your teams and what you have accomplished. So I just had to say that. I know that during our walkthroughs, we saw much of what went on, actually in a minute capacity, because there's so much more, but it really was helpful to see the science room and how things had to be adjusted to make it work. So there was so much thought that went into this, and I know that there was a lot of skepticism in the community about how are they ever going to get all of this done, but I don't even think people realized just how much had to get done. So thank you for all of your efforts. I just had a few questions. For the media center at the library at the middle school, do we have any preliminary estimates on what that looks like?
No, I think we're still at the engagement with the community there, so getting teacher and student input. Well, I think once we have our feedback from them, we can start moving that into a design, and then we'll be able to get a cost associated with that.
Okay. Could you speak a little bit more to the classroom infrastructure changes that are still needed?
Yeah, so when reorganization was in the planning phases, we literally went room by room with principals and facilities. We assessed the condition of the walls and the floors in every single room, and we created a priority list of almost like a grade on it. There are quite a few rooms district-wide that we deemed at the highest need of either wall repair and paint, and there's a few rooms, particularly at the middle school, that are in need of flooring, as they're currently science rooms that have carpeted flooring, and they've had to make some adjustments to how they use that space and moving students, and it would make sense for those rooms to get different flooring.
I'll also say, when working with Colin and the whole team, we developed, phase one was pretty much what had to be done before, teachers and students moved in day one. That was phase one, if you will. Phase two was what can get done after. And we're still, there's, minimal, small. We're still working on it. And then phase three was ultimately, we called it kind of like wish list items, but we're also tackling those items as well.
Okay.
So really, kind of answer your question, there's still a significant amount of rooms that do need it, and we developed a multi-year plan, and we had talked about how that request would be reoccurring through capital over the next set of years to address the need.
Okay. My last question is just, what was the biggest obstacle you came across during the move?
I felt like every day there was well, Colin and I, we had planned out the week. When Sterling was here, they almost like we had their marching orders. And every once in a blue moon, there'd be like a curveball that they'd throw at us. I think having to be able to pivot when they'd show up somewhere and maybe something wasn't quite ready to go, or maybe we also wanted them to actually have to switch things for, I don't know, it could be a program, or could have just been maybe what the weather was doing, I don't really know, but having to change on the fly, and Colin and I trying to, fortunately, it was at least two of us, because we were never together. It was, he was either one place and I was at the other, and it was madness.
Yeah. I think it's the
Organized
nature
chaos.
of the job,
Yeah.
and so I appreciate that, so thank you.
I think
Yeah.
the one I would say is similar to Kevin is schedule, and, you know, we would put a schedule on, and then maybe a day or two in, we're like, okay, we may not meet this exactly the way we want it to, so we would have to figure out how to make up that time and make it happen. So I think that was probably the one I would say.
Yep, thank you, and I still appreciate Lucas and all hands on deck right before school started, so, thank you. Appreciate it.
No.
Yep. I don't think people think about this when they think of education. So one, thank you for all the stuff that you do to help our students have a place to go to and have a productive learning experience. Because once again, if things aren't right in the building, the facilities, students are going to be distracted, not going to be able to perform at their best. And same for our educators, not going to be able to perform at their best if they don't have the touch view screens in the rooms, they don't have what they need. So it's all a village, we all work together. There's some things that you talked about that I just wanted you to elaborate a little bit more on. The building management system, what does that exactly do, and like what will the upgrade do for us?
So ultimately, like the air that's coming into the space, being able to remotely, I know because right now it's a school committee, it's after hours. I know most people anywhere could just go over the thermostat and, you know, like warmer or cooler. But in the event that it wasn't working, or I had to, you know, log in remotely and troubleshoot it, and or just turn something off and turn it back on again to see if that could just be a low-hanging fruit, easy type of fix, the building management system allows me to do that. It's also a great thing to kind of get a high level of room spaces in a building. I know it's warm out, but I didn't think it was that warm out. Like why is this, you know, space heating, you know, maybe when it shouldn't be. Also, when Carlos gives me a call and he's got crews coming in to plow the next or later that night. So can you fire up the boilers and make sure that all the lights on everywhere, because we're expected to get, you know, 6 inches of snow. I can just log into the building management system and do that. But so that's what the system does. But the upgrade piece, with it being an older system, stopped receiving support in 2002, every once in a while, these boxes that live in all the buildings just manually need to get reset from just aging equipment, whether it's I don't want to say like a relay, but I mean a panel, a controller. The other piece of this also, I'm going to go a little bit further into the rabbit hole here, is a sustainability piece. Mm-hmm. I think individuals in our field and facilities, when they think of a building management system, they log in and they would see a graphic of an air handling unit and a little squirrel cage that's running and a coil that's turning red, it's turning hot. That's not the system we're using. it's probably something closer to like Microsoft DOS. Like, so, so it's a little, I don't mean to pick on the system, people listening, but it is archaic. And the other piece of that is, I don't like to also use the hit by the bus scenario, but like if, John or I weren't around and someone had to log in and use the system, I don't know if they know how to turn it on.
Got it, okay. No, completely understood. So thank you for that. The other thing you'd mentioned, there's some boiler maintenance. I guess what's the benefit of doing the maintenance on that one?
So, actually, the boilers are down. It was, I want to say it was the middle of March. Boiler 2 had a leak. I got a video from Chuck, the custodian, said you ought to make a quick phone call. So he sent me a video of the boiler leaking, and I said, yep, let me make a call. We had our on-call mechanical team come out there. They found out that it was a leaky tube. They replaced it and got it back up and running. Not 3 days after they got it running, boiler 1 started leaking. So boiler 1 started leaking, and at this point it's now halfway through maybe April or something, and I'm looking at the calendar and the heating season's almost done. I said, well, we still got boiler 2 running, and so just shut boiler 1 off. We'll figure it out in the summer. And the day before, probably, I think I could turn the heat off, boiler 2 started leaking again. So rather than having a team come in and just continuously replace one tube here, one tube there, we're doing a full replacement of the tubes in the boilers. Because
It's cheaper in the long run.
yeah, and it's, I know it's kind of weird to think about it, but it's June and October comes quick.
Yep.
So,
Makes sense. It's like having an old car that's falling apart and it costs more money to fix it than get a new one, so makes sense. And then the last thing I had, I know Colin, there's a couple references to a chiller coils. Is that for the calf? Is that something different?
No.
Okay.
Washington Street.
the coil replacement is the high school, and that, unlike, unfortunately, that's it's a micro channel coil. It's not the type of coil like maybe you'd see behind your refrigerator, where there'd be the C-looking coil with like fins in it. If there was a leak here, you could just solder it and fix it. A micro channel coil, ultimately, it's either a super expensive repair, or unfortunately you just replace the coil itself. So.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you. Appreciate this.
Dave? Yeah, thank you for this update. And really, as my colleagues mentioned, thank you so much just for all the work that went into the reorganization. There's so much that had gone into it that is how the budget's able to kind of come in where it's at right now for the entire town with $3.2 million in savings because of this reorg and a still better overall educational experience. But it's fantastic, and it was a lot of sleepless nights I had from that May 2024 vote until school came in session in 25. But you guys just did a phenomenal job, and so personally, thank you very much for setting my mind at ease. Couple of questions and comments. First, when it comes to lockers, so at the middle school, again, also thank you so much. I had a friend, she was so excited to kind of go to the new Franklin Middle School, 6th grader, and we'd see her at flag football, and every single day, how was it? It was a great experience. She goes, except the backpack is so heavy, I would almost fall over walking from class to class, until all of a sudden the lockers got installed. It was the very first thing she said to me when she saw it. She was so excited to use a locker, and it was great. But then on the flip side, at the high school, We've heard kind of since COVID, I remember doing one of like the school tours, that high schoolers themselves just aren't utilizing the lockers. Is there any kind of talk or discussion about getting rid of some of those, or moving them around, or doing something else with some of that space?
Yeah, we actually explored that when we learned of the need at Franklin Middle about potentially taking the lockers from Franklin High School. That was going to be expensive, one, but it also was going to result in additional work needed to finish the walls behind it and what to do with that space. We didn't have anything to take the place on it. But yeah, I think we've had some initial discussions about possible uses of that space.
Unlike the middle school lockers that are built to be removed, those are built in. So you have damage to the wall. So if you remove them, that's half the battle. But then you have, like you said, the hallways would just be marred. So it's better to actually just keep the lockers where they are for now. Ideally, I know in some of the more the newer schools being built, you'll see just a block, like a tabletop with charging stations, things like that are just laid out. But obviously with cell phone bans coming, I don't know if those are going to be useful. But ultimately, just kiosk for Chromebooks, things like that, to be able to move. But at this point, I think it would cost more to do anything with those lockers other than keep them where they are in the spaces they're in. So we did consider that, though. It was a good question.
So on the horizon, but just not nearly a priority.
No.
Given everything else. And then also over at Franklin Middle, with the playground, where it was kind of oak right now, do we know, is that space still being utilized much as a playground?
During athletic games, like football games, it does get utilized as a playground for younger children. If there's, different ages of families that still utilize that space. It's not used in the current school day by the middle school. But I was just walking with, was I with you, Colin?
Yeah.
Okay. We were walking the grounds, and the cost to, like, if you were to remove that playground, you'd have to put money into removing it, and then I don't know that you'd see the benefit, because I do think people utilize that. I see it on the weekends too when I drive around to check out my Secret Server rooms. I do see people utilizing it, like, in the community, so I don't think it's worth the investment in trying to remove something like that. I do think it is used, so at this point, until it becomes an aging piece of equipment that's unsafe, I don't think we would make a decision with the money that we don't have to remove it at this time.
That's great. And then also, Kevin, when you talked about the shared vision, I know my colleague Reese kind of mentioned the same thing, but I love that sentiment. It's something we've also often kind of talked about, the whole, this is just one ecosystem. And I know, our colleagues and our kickball teammates as well, I got their work cut out for them tomorrow with the budget. But, with the way that facilities kind of comes through, there's so much that we can see right here where how we work, hand in hand with DPW. And there's no way that we are reopening up our schools with all the snow that we have if we don't have an amazing DPW, and that comes out of their budget. We have police with the school resource officers that are being talked about. There's so much out there that touches every different part of the Franklin community, but it is just that one shared vision of excellence. And so thank you so much for touching on that and for bringing that up. And lastly, Colin, you mentioned that Lincoln Street boom crane. I think you throw that out everywhere. There's so many little 3 or 4-year-old boys and girls that would love to see that in action. I'm thinking of my little guy. Charge $5 admission, and we'd be able to pay off the debt.
That would have been a good kickball name.
The boom cranes. So thank you so much for this and all the work that you guys have been doing. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, just not a whole lot to say. I know there's been a lot of questions, and I think a lot of great answers from you all, but the continued coordination and the partnership, I think really is a lot. The two of you working together as you have, the two organizations. I think it's easy to forget just how much y'all do, because a lot of it is behind the scenes, a lot of it is seamless. But to your point, you go in, heat's working, AC's working, lights are on. There's a lot of those details that come into play that you'll really help support with. And I know that there's a lot of little projects that, like the lights that just went up on the back of the stadium. you don't think much, there are a couple of small poles. It took a considerable amount of effort to actually get them installed. But you think about the usefulness of that space, that whole field down behind the football stadium is actually useful at night instead of just hoping that, the football field lights are enough. So, I really wanted to call it out and make sure that the community knows just how many of those projects that we just, we mentioned, we're like, oh, we're going to work in the rooms. Well, the teachers aren't painting the rooms or changing out the tile. We talk about moving anything around. Yes, our staff, we have pictures of them moving moving boxes and things like that. But the big coordination and all, to your point, taking out desks and giant, demonstration systems and gas lines and water and all those things. We don't necessarily have to build every single one of those things out as a school because we have y'all as great, supporters and partners in that. So, thank you for all that you do to help make sure that our day-to-day goes as smoothly as it does, that all those little things, when like you said, when the Boilers decide that, this is just not going to be their year, it's really depressing. That you're there to continuously help. And I know that we had a couple of big adventures for you this year. We'll try to maybe not consistently, but again, it's a reason that our kids are able to really enjoy the systems that they have, and that our teachers are able to teach in the classrooms that they have, is because y'all help us maintain them, and y'all help make sure that we need, everything that we need really is supported. And again, from the funding perspective, I know I mentioned it earlier, it's very easy to think of all these as line items. Schools here, facilities here, but it's that 1/3 that you mentioned, all the people that you have that do so many of these things day in and day out. And that's not always captured in quite the same way, right? It's like, all right, we need, $50,000 for that. We need $100,000 for that. You also need how many hours worth of staff and trained professionals to come in and do that. And that's something that I want to make sure that, is called out as not getting lost in the mix. So really appreciate that. Thank you. Colin, appreciate you continuing to make sure that there's someone on our side who knows how to coordinate and communicate on all of it. I think it really is, again, that partnership is what's really important and what makes sure this all goes well. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Next up on your agenda, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Tina Rogers, our Assistant Superintendent, who leads the Office of Teaching and Learning. She'll be joined by Eric Stark, our Pre-K through 12 Director of STEM, and Miss Lizzie Morrison, who is our Pre-K through 12 Director of Humanities. So they're here tonight to share an update on artificial intelligence and the guidance. And without further ado, I'll kick it over to you, Dr. Rogers.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. And before we start and we'll give a nod to committee members, but one of our committee members is here in person, even though she's going to be up early in the morning tomorrow to teach
Thanks for staying.
one of our elementary classroom teachers, Jamie Helbig, is here with us as part of this work. So if you want. So no, we're so excited to be here. I think as we've discussed kind of in this public forum, and as we know, on an international level, a global level, this AI is here. It's not going anywhere, and I think I'm really proud of the work that we're going to present to you all in the community tonight, to say that as Franklin Public Schools, we're here to march forward with a path, and that we're not kind of putting our heads in the sand and saying, like, not us, we can't. It's parts of it are scary, but we're here to move that momentum forward in a very thoughtful way that is inclusive of who we are as Franklin community, who we are as Franklin Public Schools, and making sure that this guidance embodies that character of our community. So with that, we'll just scroll a little bit. I think I have to scroll this because like this way. So tonight we will give kind of a progress update. We'll share the stakeholder input with you and what that looks like and how that shaped the guidance adjustments, and then give you kind of a glimpse at the path ahead. So before kind of there, just as a progress update, I think we all watch the news, we read about AI, we experience AI in various ways. We've been reading articles published around AI, and then in January we had the opportunity to attend a COSIN conference which the three of us and our director of technology together we went together to learn from national leaders, to collaborate with leaders from across the state, and then really leave there with a plan and a pathway forward. We then brought our committee of folks together that launched in February. And so what you'll see presented here tonight, there was a tremendous amount of work done and really kind of a short runway, but to set ourselves up really well for next year to continue that work. So just an appreciation to these folks here. So I'll name, Eric, Lizzie, and I did facilitate this group. We had Nate Burns, who's our FHS librarian, Laura Evans, who's a Spanish, World Language Department head and a Spanish teacher, Allison Finley, one of our DLIs, Jamie in the audience helping here, who's one of our elementary teachers, Laura Keenan, a Spanish teacher at FHS, Andrew Messier from the technology department, Chris Penza is a history teacher at the high school, Joe Piazza is a teacher at the high school, Tim Ryan, teacher at the high school, Leanne Soulard, FHS admin, Josie, who works in Collin, in collaboration with Collin, Gail Trotton is an elementary teacher, Marianne Zogby, DLI. And I just named those roles because I wanted you to know and see the breadth of experience and perspective that was brought to the table. And this group really, really worked hard to start with DESE guidance, to start with research, to look to say what are others doing, and then to take all of that information and then take the survey feedback that this group put out, the listening sessions they did, and really formulate what you'll see. So thanks to that committee. So here you can see we put out a survey, we put out a family survey. We were so thrilled, 457 families responded to our survey, which I think is tremendous. I think we've seen maybe some more input, say from the calendar survey, but this was a pretty intensive survey. So we didn't ask just a few multiple choice questions. There was a large amount of open responses. So I do think, it could be a little, it probably took folks about 15 minutes or so to fill out a survey, and potentially even more if you had to kind of step away and come back. So I think that's a really great representation in just the start of input. 146 staff members, similarly, like we didn't dedicate time to teachers to do this. They did this on their own, and I think that's a tremendous, those pieces there, I think, speak to folks want guidance, folks want a voice in that, so I think that's tremendous. And then the 27 students throughout 3 focus groups that happened, again, a really short runway, and that we'll speak to, we'll be expanding that, but some really great insight from our kids that we'll share as well. So into the data. So the next 2 slides, we're going to share some data, and then I'm also going to give you some anecdotal information that's not on these slides related to student input, which I think is critical to shaping this. So if you look across the top there, we had 91% of families saying that they're familiar with AI. 87% of families say that their students are already using it. So I think those pieces right there are just kind of a key indicator to us that we need some guidance. We need some to give our families, our students, and our teachers some support. 88% of families, which I was actually kind of shocked by this one, 88.8% of families support teaching AI, which I think, again, in a responsible way, in an ethical way, which are key there, but I was excited to see that 89% of our community said that. And then there you see that 76.8 students understand AI responsible use to preparing them for the future. So I think some of these top concerns here, which I feel like is a little hard to see. Can we zoom this up top maybe, just so people can see? Perfect. So you're going to see some through lines here. So some of the top family concerns, students relying on AI instead of thinking. I think we just talked about this at the end of our policy meeting too. This is a through line through educators failing the similar way and students as well. So really thinking about the intentionality of naming how and why and when we might use AI. Again, top concern being inaccurate information. Academic dishonesty, this came up for students too, which I'll kind of get to in a little bit. And I think what you'll see in our guidance is really this reduced personal connection, making sure that we highlight this, because we don't want human connections to be lost at all. And I think this kind of is a through line too. We've talked, I know, in this forum about use of technology in classrooms too. I think there's some through lines here with this information that families are sharing. And then you have the most valued benefits there, which I think, again, we'll see some through lines, but helping students personalize their learning supports, writing and research, not doing the thinking for them, but helping to support that. Providing immediate feedback to students, generating ideas. So these are some of the positive highlights that families indicated that they can see some benefits from their students. So educators, you're gonna see some similarities and some varied here. So similarly to educators, almost 94% of educators are familiar with AI tools, which is like a great place to be as you think about an on-road to bringing a whole community of educators together. This next one was a bit striking for us. 42.1% of educators say that students use AI for homework, studying, in comparison to, if I scroll back up, 87.3% of families, right? So this, to us, indicated, and we asked a few questions, why might this be? Are students potentially using AI more at home than in school? Are teachers maybe not seeing the use of AI in school, but parents are at home, but it is being used, but maybe, shut down when teachers are around? But either way, this kind of differential led us to ask some questions and ponder kind of those guidance features and really being intentional in pointing to, we have to give guidance around what is Franklin Public Schools saying about appropriate use of AI for teaching, instruction, for student use, and what is not appropriate. And so I think that's worth a conversation to be having. And then you'll see the other two data points there being very similar to what families said in supporting teaching AI responsibly and student understanding, preparing them for the future. Again here with concerns, similar trends. Students relying on AI instead of thinking for themselves. Very similar to the parent percentage there. Inaccurate information, academic dishonesty. And then what I appreciated here that was named by educators is that fourth one down there, too much screen time. And I think kind of cross-sections those other conversations that we're having. And then if you think about the most valuable benefits, it was great to see educators saying we could leverage AI to provide accessibility supports for learners in the classroom. That is, if it's done ethically, responsibly, a really great way to leverage an AI tool. And we've kind of done some of that work a little this year. Personalized learning support, immediate feedback, generating ideas, all similar vein to what families said. So really help support some guidance. Some anecdotes I just want to add before we move from this slide, because I think what I regret not doing is adding a student feedback information, but I want to just share with you some quotes and information the students provided. So students drew their own lines of using AI. They don't want to do AI to do the work. They don't want they don't want their teachers to feel as though they're cheating by using AI. That they want to talk about when is it accessible and when is it not. We should be using it, these are some quotes, as a tutor to practice, to outline, or to proofread. Students asked for clarity, being firm and having consistent expectations across all classrooms, and wanting their teachers to know and understand how to use AI, but also know and understand that AI doesn't necessarily mean that they're cheating. They described using AI consistently for study guides, difficulty with homework formatting, and occasional email help. I thought that was interesting. Their biggest concerns were the erosion of their own skills over time, over-reliance on AI, and job displacement, which I thought was pretty insightful as we think about our path forward. Another topic that came up, maybe not as prevalent, which I think just should be named and we should think about this as we move forward, is the idea of the bias piece, the hallucinations, but that the fake videos that are being put out there, and having conversations so parents can kind of tell the difference of what those are and adults can tell the difference, which just led us to thinking and talking about what are some community involvement pieces that we can do to engage and support and educate our community around AI. But really, the conversation with the students that were in those focus groups that were led by our committee members really pointed to needing more student voice as we move forward and continue on our path with AI.
Great, thank you. So now we'll talk about our guiding principles that we developed as a committee. Eric, Tina, and I looked at the DESE guidelines, and again, they're just providing very broad guidelines. They're not telling districts what they should do, what they shouldn't do. It's really leaving it up to us, which we appreciate, but also we did take their guidance and then got feedback from our committee members. So I think all of this work is in draft mode, and this is where we'll pick up next year with our committee, AI committee going forward. But where we landed for guiding principles for our AI use for educators and students and families is number one, human connection. And you can see that families and educators both really strongly supported this principle with something that we need. And we'll talk a little bit more about each one in a moment. The second one is AI literacy, that it's really understanding the benefits and the drawbacks of using AI and what that looks like for students and the teachers. The third is personal accountability. Again, very strong. Families and educators supported this statement. And then the fourth is data privacy and security. I think that's our number one concern, and wanting to make sure that we are all on the same page and that we have these guidelines for everyone so it's very clear what we do and what we don't do in terms of AI use. And Eric and I are going to take a moment to talk about these. The first one being human connection, and I think that was a concern through the survey that everyone identified was replacing the teacher component of education. And so AI in this realm is used to enhance, not replace. The teacher is the one who is guiding the learning. The student is the one who is thinking critically, processing the information and creating whatever output to show their understanding, but also understanding that it is a supplemental tool. And so how can we use this to enhance? If I'm studying for an exam and I say create a study guide on, U.S. history for these set of dates, that could be a supportive use of AI instead of write an essay for me about, this battle. So there's different things that we need to provide guardrails for the teachers and for the students so it's very clear of how we're able to use this. And when we shared the statements on the survey, people provided the input, and that's kind of what we're showing you here is how we landed at these principles to understand what resonated with people, what didn't, where do we need more clarity. And ultimately, I believe DESE had 5 guiding principles for this, and so we kind of merged and moved around based on input from different stakeholders. So in terms of AI literacy, we're looking at how it's used and what we can get from it. Also understanding that AI at the kindergarten level is going to be very different than at the senior level. We are working with AI tools in terms of reading development at the kindergarten level, and some people love that, and some people are like, oh no, I don't want my child to do that. So it's understanding what's appropriate for the different levels. And again, understanding that it should really deepen our learning and not replace any intellectual effort that makes the learning meaningful. So we're still expecting students and teachers to do the thinking, but as AI being a supplemental tool. Okay. And now Eric will talk about guiding principle 3 and 4.
Sure. So guiding principle number 3 is personal accountability. And as this principle has evolved, our expectations around accountability and honesty have remained consistent the entire time. I think what has evolved a little bit, or what's been impacted by stakeholder input, is how that accountability is demonstrated. And so what I mean is we launched this work thinking about a citation of AI use prior to submission, but then after going through a process and multiple iterations and gathering stakeholder input, landing at a place where we're shifting our language as this principle evolved from citing AI use at the end to being able to hold students accountable for articulating how an AI tool may have helped their thinking evolve over the course of a process. And I think as we think about the executive summary that's in the bottom left corner, just that statement of, in Franklin, and Tina and Lizzie have reiterated this too, humans remain the teachers, the learners, and the evaluators. And again, this includes being transparent about how those tools were used along the way. And principle number 4, I think, as was shared, is the one that I think leaves people feeling the most concerned. And so we would say this principle supports a clear, non-negotiable expectation that personally identifiable information never be entered into an open AI platform. And we intend to back this up with education for our students and our educators around why that boundary matters. And I think it was great to hear from students that they want to be a part of the conversations around why this matters. And we also heard from families that families want students to understand the why, not just be told no. And so again, I think there's an opportunity for ongoing education around data risks. And I would just say that this is a natural extension of our privacy protections that we're already committed to and that are in place. And so again, it's a big concern that we share, but I think there's a lot of opportunity here. And then as we think about looking forward, I think we would just say this year has been about building the foundation, as Tina started us with, for this work and where we go next. But the opportunity that we have as we look towards next year is to strengthen that foundation, commit to communicating it broadly, and then building the culture around it. So how do we do that? A couple of things. We want to reorganize our AI guidance committee, our district-wide committee. Again, those people that were listed at the beginning. We want to reorganize that group to help to take us through the next leg of this journey. We also want to, as Tina said, bring student voice onto the committee and not just have them be survey respondents, but have them have a voice in the committee. So we intend to do that. We also want to be able to launch the fall with having our AI guidance, again, in draft form, but available to our parents online. And then we want to embed opportunities for AI professional learning into all of our sessions throughout the course of the year, so that this doesn't just seem like a one-time rollout, but rather an ongoing process for our teachers to engage in professional learning. And so I think with that said,
Can I just make one additional comment? Just as it relates to that parent engagement, a number of folks filled out the survey and provided resources or made statements like, I'm actually in the industry and I think I could be an asset. Or, so-and-so is someone who I have a connection with that might be, I've seen them speak. And so the folks that did provide their information or that have reached out to us separately can't expect a follow-up from our office in July. Just waiting for kind of the school year. But they can't expect that follow-up. And then we will be looking for parents as advisory folks who we can kind of bounce ideas off of, we can get some initial information out of, and have really a back and forth collaborative conversation with families as well. So I just wanted to know that.
With that, we'll answer any questions you have.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Reese, any questions? Maybe one?
A few. Thanks, Paul. Thank you for the work you've done here. Thank you for engaging the community so thoroughly. I wanted to start by asking if you could tell us more about the kindergarten use of AI.
No, we were able to pilot this year through grant of what it looks like to target early literacy with one-to-one direct tutoring through Project Read, has an AI tutor. So we started that at Washington Street, and we're able to extend it over the summer. So it doesn't replace the teacher, but I'm picturing a kindergarten classroom where there's 3 centers set up, and the teacher's working with 4 students on, literacy development, and then 4 students are working one-on-one on a Chromebook, and they're getting instant feedback from the AI tutor on how to pronounce letters, sounds, reading, etc. So it's a pretty unique tool that we're exploring, but again, it's more supplemental. And then, if a parent over the summer is not necessarily comfortable with continuing teaching how to read or the literacy development, a student could work on that for 15 minutes and continue their learning.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I have a lot of concerns about AI, but I think a lot of my concerns are more related to the more public models, the less the less specific, the not bespoke models, but rather these general models that most of our students, at least older ones that are using it, are probably familiar with. What are your thoughts, or where are you at in terms of what age to introduce those tools to students and how to do so?
So I will start to answer, but I want to get back to your question about the kindergarten AI tool.
Oh, yeah,
just
please
to
do.
name something so that we don't, so any student who's using that tool, their families we've been in contact, and they have agreed to that. So it's not that every student in kindergarten is using that tool, so I just wanted to make that very clear. As it relates to kind of appropriate student use, right now our plan is to launch the school year with staff providing the guidance that you saw, those 4 guiding principles, providing that information with a little bit more of a summary to what those images are that you saw, and then some initial guidance that the AI committee put together around student use and teacher use. In addition, from this committee, we also developed some policy handbook suggestions that we will be providing to our administrative teams as they work on that over the summer. So those are just some components. As it relates to AI tools in the classrooms in the elementary school, that is something that our committee, students, advisory from parents, we need to have some really critical discussions about what that looks like. So right now, in an elementary classroom, I do not think, or I have never seen, a student opening ChatGPT or things of that nature. It's very, students are on Chromebooks using ST Math and other kind of instructional tools. But as it relates to kind of conversations about how does instructional technology from K through 12 in that class, as students work through that, what does that look like? And is it more conversations about AI use at the K1, 2, 3 level, rather than actual use of a generative AI tool?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, we don't have a specific what is what at what grade level, but our guidance around instructional use and student use will speak to those guardrails until we have some real clear kind of expectations.
Okay, thank you. I think one of the, well, I want to share some concerns because I hope that it's helpful in thinking about how to present this to students. And one of the things that was a little surprising to me is that bias in AI systems is rated kind of lower than other concerns that people have had. Because in fact, that to me is one of the things that is fundamental to AI literacy, is understanding that these are not all-knowing systems, but these are systems that were crafted by humans. The big models largely from stolen work, by stealing other people's work. But that they're crafted by humans and can be manipulated by humans. And the students, it's very important for the students to think about what may have been excluded from this data set. We have a very public and kind of notorious example of manipulation of an AI system regarding Grok the AI associated with the company formerly known as Twitter. And I think what we can learn from that is what other manipulation is going on that's not public. What is missing from these data sets that our students aren't being exposed to, and how is that shaping their ideas and their perception of reality? I think that's a real risk, and I think it's compounded by that I feel like we're regularly seeing people who are kind of at the helm of these projects saying things that mirror what you might see from a superhero movie. So I would really like to see our students educated about how to question that and how to be really thoughtful about how to approach. And it kind of, I relate it to how we were taught about, Wikipedia is not a source. And turns out actually Wikipedia is a pretty great source. It's just not a primary source. You have to look at who's being cited there. And you have to understand that any moment you look at Wikipedia, there's a risk of it not being accurate in that moment. I wanted to also mention concerns about the psychosocial impact of AI use, and I want to preface this by that I'm going to be bringing up some upsetting topics. There are a couple of pretty high-profile examples of people whose AI use has led to tragedy in their lives. There's a lawsuit ongoing right now by a family whose child, I believe it was an adult child if I remember correctly, but still their child was engaged in conversations with AI and expressed suicidal intent, and the AI walked them through how to execute that, and they did so successfully. There's another account of a woman who was conversing with AI in the process of grieving the loss of her brother, and began believing that she could speak with her brother through the use of AI, and the AI system reinforced that. And these, when we normalize the use of AI for our students, we introduce these risks. And so age is certainly a strong consideration of when to do so. There's a lot of nuance that, I mean, quite frankly, is like college level critical thinking more so than any grade school level kind of critical thinking. But I think we need to find ways to help our students understand that context and really emphasize that even if AI is responding in ways that seem human-like, it is not human. It does not have empathy, and it's not motivated to help you. It's not motivated to do anything. Perhaps it's motivated to do something, but the motivation's coming from its creators, right? So whether it's making money or manipulating viewpoints or just saying, we don't need a workforce anymore because AI will do everything, which I don't think is likely to bear out, but we'll see. To that extent, I also wanted to emphasize the importance of avoiding anthropomorphizing AI systems. I think one of the hallmarks, which I've mentioned before as a citizen's comment, but keeps coming up is the use of the term hallucinations. It implies that AI perceives things. And a hallucination is when a living thing perceives something that's not actually there. And AI systems don't perceive. AI systems collect, and they're very good at kind of spitting out results that are believable. And fair enough, often are correct and useful, but many times there are plenty of examples of times they're not. And I think that's everything. Oh, yeah, there was one other comment I had. So one of the things that I want to express appreciation for the principals here. I think they're really helpful in terms of guidance, and particularly that of AI literacy. and the need for human connection. There was a phrase here, where is it? It says, oh, here it is. Under Principle 1, it says AI amplifies human expertise. I feel like that sentiment is not actually reflective of what AI does. I think that's an idealized version of AI. I think that right now there's a bigger risk of AI undermining human expertise, of people turning to AI and believing what it tells them over what field experts tell them. I think we can all probably recognize efforts from very wealthy individuals to undermine the expertise of people in various fields whose statements are problematic for their ability to make more money, and efforts to undermine the medical community, the scientific community, and so forth. Some of these individuals also have investments in AI. And so I think it's worth kind of challenging that concept that AI amplifies human expertise. And the last thing I'll add is that I recently made a presentation on AI as part of a continuing ed thing. And one of the risks I spoke to regarding human connection is that of kind of the idea of imposter syndrome, of the idea that somebody doesn't, even though they're doing the work, even though they're doing the work effectively, doesn't see themselves as an expert. And upon reflecting on my own kind of experience with imposter syndrome early in my own career, and how that was resolved, the way it was resolved was through conversations with other professionals in my field that I respected and shared ideas with, and had my ideas and approaches validated by them, and and did the same in response, and kind of building each other up and challenging each other, of course, as well, and correcting one another. And I think that there's a missed opportunity, even at the kind of low level, of using AI for proofreading rather than turning to peers, because that kind of like peer review in the classroom mirrors the kind of peer review that happens in professional communities. And nothing in here suggests that would not stop happening in our classrooms or anything like that. But I think it's important to really emphasize the importance of that kind of peer collaboration, even as AI tools can be helpful in proofreading, for example. So thank you for answering my questions, and thank you for hearing my thoughts. I will pass the mic now.
Nadia?
I don't have nearly as much as Steve. But I also share my concerns with AI, obviously. I think I'm really curious to see the different tiers of development from kindergarten to senior year in high school, and how that evolves over time. I just, from having a child who, has her cell phone in middle school, I think I appreciate this work. It's critical. Handing a cell phone to a child with a million apps and then trying to retract that, I just know from experience, this is a big challenge. So handing them this type of a tool without barriers is extremely scary. So I appreciate this work. I'm very interested in seeing how it evolves. I think many of the comments that were shared by the students really resonated with me. So kudos to them for really digging deep and coming up with those ideas, especially like the job security. And I feel like we're going to be in a lifelong learning system over time. But one other thing that I would think to include would be how to, like the effectiveness and how measurement of that looks like in different capacities over time. I know we're trying to figure out how to implement and provide guidance, but also how to measure the impacts on students over time as we're using the tool, I think would be something to track right from the get-go to see exactly how the benefits of it, exactly. So I would say that would be something I would keep in mind as you go through this process. I think that's it for now. I'm curious to see where this goes, but thank you.
Well,
Cool. So thank you for doing this. I think we're all learning together. We're all figuring this out. It's brand new, and there's a lot of unknowns. So I think this is the first step, is to have the conversation, have the dialogue, have the forum where people can talk, share their perspectives, and figure out how do we move forward. I think this is a great start. I think engaging the community is one. I think what would help as well is probably partnering with other districts as well, just to show what we're doing, because we're not in a silo. You know, everybody's figuring out how do we navigate this together. So I think that would help. I am not as concerned, but I think there are things that we need to help bring people along. I feel like I've said this before, in the absence of information, people make things up, right? And we just put thoughts together and kind of assume. What would be helpful is to get a clear understanding of how AI is used, because I think folks think of AI and that you think of what has been said, and it's like the farthest of it, but in reality, the students are given access to probably controlled environments, and it's not wide open. So one, if families can understand at each level what is the AI that they're exposed to, because at the end of the day, we're all using AI in one way, shape, or form. You're using Siri, you're using Alexa, you're using your phone. There's AI among us, but when we think of AI, people go straight to OpenAI, Grok, the bigger things, Anthropic, but we're using it on a regular basis right now. So what is the scope that our students are using it? One, I think that would be helpful. And I think if we have that as part of kind of an awareness campaign of, hey, we'll say Gigi, the math program, that's AI. So what's that scope, you know? And it's all self-contained, and it's not wide open. So I think that would be helpful. Two, how are the educators using AI? So sharing, okay, at each level, what does an elementary school teacher, how do they use AI to help them? What are they doing with that? Middle school, high school, same thing. Even at the central office, how are you all using AI? Because understanding how we all are using it will then kind of rein things in and kind of, this is the scope, you know? We're not saying, I got a big file of the district data and I'm just popping into OpenAI and be like, hey, give me data, you know? Like, no, that's not the case. What are those use cases? I speak as a person that is my job. I'm trying to figure out how do we use AI in my business, and people think the world of it. It's going to do all these different things. Like, no, it's not. It's still early in its life cycle, and there are things that you try to say, yep, do this huge, massive project. You're spending more time doing it, but if it's more constrained and it's a specific use case, you may have better results. So I think understanding how we all use it will then help with the story. I think it's just really about transparency and trust. I think that's the thing. If we have awareness and it's more clear, concrete examples so that people can understand this is the use case, these are the scenarios that we're using it, I think that will help with that. And then continuing what you're doing, having these forums where people can come in and talk and they can hear it and they can express their interests and their concerns. I think that's where we start and go from there. So thank you for what you're doing. I know it's going to be a tough, long road, but appreciate this work. Thank you.
Thanks, so. Steve?
First of all, thank you very much for this presentation. And schools is a place where we educate. We have a lot of concerns, and definitely we have to educate. As an educator, we have to educate our children how to use the AI, how to get benefit out of it. Right now, there are a lot of concerns about the job market. AI is picking up job, but it's like a lot of it is not real information. So it's all about like we have to tell them, educate them how to use it and how to get benefit it, rather than get scared of it. That's one thing. The principles are very well articulated, but now I would assume that we will have a future presentations where it will come with a proper articulation of rubrics and how we are going to implement and everything. So I believe we'll have that one. So one question I have is on the educators, right? Out of 146 what was the total the survey was sent, and how many responded from an educator's point of view?
So it's, how many educators?
Did you send it out to? Did you?
All the users, so.
All Franklin Public
Yep.
Schools? So 800?
That's 800 or so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that number is very low in that case, right? Probably 15 to 20%. So maybe we should get more information from them, because they are the one who's going to teach them. They're the one who's going to play play the critical role here. So that's one thing we might have to maybe see how we can reach out to them. So is there any AI? First of all, how is our internet systems are allowing the AI tools? Like, is there a restriction to use any Grok or ChatGPT or Claude, or is there it's open in the school Wi-Fi that they can do it?
Yeah, it's currently open. We have the ability to restrict. When we start restricting, it gets a little, we have to make some deliberate decisions about what we restrict and why. Good.
From my understanding, if the student uses AI,
Yep.
the AI will recognize that it's coming from a minor and a student, and it'll block them. I know for sure it has
Through their
happened.
Chromebooks.
So I think we should leverage those kind of guardrails and then try to implement that. And is there any plan for us to adopt a tool and then because that's where you put the guardrails and your implementations on the AI, like have it for the Franklin Public School and then have a guardrails around how to use and probably what can be sent to that AI system and what should not be sent to something we can play around with that. Is there any plan for that?
So you've all raised great points, and I want to respond at the end of it, but yes, so we have had these conversations. There are some tools that are within the Google Suite that do adhere to our student data privacy agreement. We talked about this a little bit earlier. One being Gemini, that's a Google platform. Notebook LM is another tool that's within that Google platform. So just naming those two right there are tools that do adhere to student data privacy agreements, just like ST Math with Gigi.
Yeah.
So there are conversations, those are happening, they did happen with the committee, and as you can imagine, February, March, April, May, 4 months of time, there was some research time, there were conversations, they were gathering feedback. So we have probably about a 12-page guidance document at this point that kind of speaks to a lot of the comments raised, that we have some more work to do on this summer before we're really ready to kind of put a little bit more detail out to the community. Yeah.
I think we are right on time. It's not too early or it's not too late. I think we started right on time and now implementing these POCs and practices. So hope to see more updates on this in future. Thank you.
So, Dave?
Thanks. First, one of the very first slide, it's a presentation developed with assistance from Claude. And I kind of circled that. I was like, will this be commonplace to kind of see that? And I love as we get deeper into it, to cite your tools. And I think that's such a great guiding principle. As Reese kind of brought up, talking about Wikipedia. I remember being in school and having the librarian talk about the difference of what's listed there on Wikipedia versus if you kind of dive into the citations and the difference that makes. And so I love that you're just kind of incorporating that concept, that just as you had to cite your sources previously, you still do, but now you also have to cite the tools that you're using as you kind of move forward. Dr. Rogers, you mentioned you're not putting your head in the sand, but also kind of recognizing it's a changing environment. And how do we kind of change and adapt? And with that, I love, really appreciate all the committee's work in leading up to this presentation, and I really appreciate that we're seeing some of the results of the work at the ground level. I know there's been a lot of times in the past where there's been a lot of committee work, and it's only after a year or more, where it's like, here's the finished product that was now kind of coming before us. And so what we're seeing is, a considerable amount of work to get us here to this stage, but then kind of talking about the next couple of steps. And I had almost actually mentioned a superintendent report talking about like the pathways. I always appreciate that Franklin is oftentimes kind of just right ahead of the curve. When we talked about like the pathways, it was just like last month, a hearing from the state talking about they're really trying to expand the pathways. I remember when, we did the graduation requirements after MCAS got replaced, and then it was like 6 or 9 months later that the state was like, oh, hey, here's a lot of the graduation requirements that I think that they copy and pasted a lot of the work that you guys did. We see that with the cell phone restrictions, and now we're seeing it with AI as well. Definitely, I'm sure there's many other communities that are out there doing the work, and whatever we might be able to do to kind of help, collaborate. But what we're doing now, I feel, is just right there. Like, Franklin again is ahead of the curve, getting out in front of this before it becomes a even bigger issue than it already is, or before the state starts to mandate a bunch of stuff. So I applaud the work that's already gone into it, and look forward to the work that you guys are going to continue to do. Thank you.
And, I appreciate the effort here, in really capturing the outreach. I know there are a lot of people who have opinions kind of across the board, and I think balancing that out and also really showing it in a concise manner takes a lot of effort, but I do appreciate that. I think one of the biggest challenges, I think, for this committee going forward is going to be balancing the information gathering and principles and suggestions with real, like, what actions are going to be taken, and trying to measure out how that all kind of balances on the back end. So I think, as you continue going down, I look forward to hearing more about this. I think we'll have, definitely more engagement from the community, from the committee, to make sure that as we're going through something that's changing so rapidly, we're basically doing our best to try and keep moving our, this is one of the few times I feel like moving the goalposts is kind of required. Often it's, right, often it's frustrating. Like, great, we're going to form it, we're going to get our principles ready, we're going to have our targets, we'll report out in 6 months, and in 4 months, all of that's shifted. So it's like, how do we really create those paths as principles, those directions as targets, instead of, okay, rigid option 1, we're going to hit this at this time, really having it where we know what lanes we have to kind of follow, and we can report back on that. So, good luck. But yeah, again, I think, I encourage the community to definitely continue to stay involved. I appreciate all the teachers and staff that already have. And, I think it sounds like we have quite a few committee members who are really excited to help provide that kind of the breadth of opinions, right? And that's the biggest challenge, right? And I think, and of course, you suggested that yourself when looking at these 3 different groups. One answer for one group is correct, and for another group, they see it as wrong, or it's just not realistic. It's not what's happening. So I think that's going to be one of the toughest parts to take into account, but it's also a great opportunity for us, as Al said, about the transparency and making sure that people really trust what's going on, by explaining, because I think sometimes those different opinions are a matter of explaining, all right, really, here's the center point. Yes, don't necessarily trust all of it, but we can bring it up a little bit from where we stand right now. So good luck. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot from y'all.
If you don't mind, through the chair,
Please
can I
do.
just respond kind of? So what I will say is that we appreciate the feedback, the input, and I want to say that we know, and I think the whole committee knows, because we grappled with this quite a bit, this is a heavy responsibility. We're educating students, and we're educating them in a very fast-paced, evolving world right now, and so we don't take that lightly. We are being very deliberate and intentional. I think just about the placement of guiding principle 1, 2, 3, were very intentionally selected as 1, 2, 3. I mean, no one can argue that data and security are foundational, right? But 1, 2, and 3, with human connection being the first component. AI literacy, you have to know the tool, know how to use it, know the output, know the bias, know that. And then you have to take personal accountability and responsibility. And this is teachers, administrators, students, parents. We have to all kind of be in this together. And so with that, I also say that we have also talked about and been looking for ways to engage the community. I know Mental Health and Wellbeing Task Force does a whole host of things. We've talked about partnering with that group, but how do we bring the community together and educate together? Because I think there's an opportunity to do that. So not only get some input and feedback and advisory along the way, but educate. And then I guess what I'll end with as well is we have been connecting with other districts, and we are very intentionally launching the year with breadcrumbs, not breadcrumbs, but people are not going to want to sit in a very long PD in an auditorium about and collaborate on AI when they have to get ready for kids to enter the door. But giving some information up front with some explanation with the why, and then really following up in that November PD that we have everybody together. And I think that's an opportunity to potentially as well to think about how do we deepen the survey respondents, or even if it's not a survey, even if it's some focus group conversations that can happen during that day, but a way to engage in kind of other ways. So just those are just some responses to kind of what we heard, but certainly we'll keep the community involved and informed along the way. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and dive into discussion action items. Item A.
First is the accept board appointment. I recommend appointment of Superintendent Lucas Jagir to serve as the Franklin representative to the 2026-27 accept board of directors as discussed.
All right. Motion regarding the adoption of the appointment of the superintendent to the accept board of directors. Is there a motion to approve as discussed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Motion and seconded. Any discussion or questions? All right. Seeing none, vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, this is the policy IMGB, therapy emotional support dogs. This is the second reading of this policy, so voting tonight would be an adoption, and I will recommend the adoption of policy IMGB, therapy/emotional support dogs as discussed.
A motion regarding the adoption of policy IMGB is proposed. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion or questions? All right. Seeing none, vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is the superintendent evaluation report. So I'll read this recommendation and then I'll kick it over to you all to continue, but to open up the conversation. I recommend approval of the superintendent's evaluation report as discussed.
All right. A motion regarding the approval of the superintendent evaluation report is before us. Is there a motion to approve the superintendent evaluation report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion and questions. So before we launch into the questions and everything, I will just kind of preface this and explain. So the committee has received a copy of the superintendent evaluation report. I do want to thank everyone. There was a lot of time and effort put into the comments and the evaluation and individual questions that each person presented. And the subcommittee, in a somewhat novel approach, really everyone just kind of diving in their individual sections and helping to support this and having good discussions about it. I really appreciate that from them. So just to make sure that everyone's on the same page, so we do have 2 primary ratings and then a final composite rating for Superintendent Jagir. And then we also have this broken down for the 4 performance goals and then all the focus indicators. So the overall performance goals rating that is proposed is met, The focus indicators rating is proposed is exemplary, and then the final composite rating is proposed is proficient. Breaking that down further, performance goals, goal 1, to strengthen the school community and team collaboration. The rating amongst the 7 of us, the average was exceed. Goal 2, build coherent systems and structures, the average was met. Goal 3, align instructional practices, the average was exceeded. And then goal 4, enhance communication, the average was met. Focus indicators for curriculum was proficient, instruction was proficient, environment was exemplary, fiscal systems was exemplary, sharing responsibility was exemplary, communication exemplary, and continuous learning proficient. So, with that being said, everybody has this in front of them. If there are specific suggestions or modifications that are proposed or requested, feel free to provide that. It's also a great time if you want to provide feedback. You know, again, you all see the final product. This is an anonymous setup, so the idea is that we have a nice collection of commendations and recommendations for each one of the goals and focus areas or focus indicators. But if people want, this is a great time to kind of hammer home on kind of an overall thought process that you have or specific things in your evaluation of the superintendent to provide to him as part of this discussion. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and open things up to anyone who wants to, any discussion, any questions or anything like that, or suggested modifications. Chief?
I'll just, first of all, thanks to Superintendent Lucas and for his service. And last 1 year I've been seeing how much closely you're working with all the departments and getting things moving on a daily basis. First of all, thanks for that. And I just had one feedback on the previous presentation. Most of the outcomes are very at a high level, and it'll be great if you can put some numbers to it and a timeline to it. So because most of them say some of them says 100% complete, but it's on track. Some of them says 80% complete, but that's also on track. So we don't know how to correlate that. So that will give a little bit more perspective about what work has been done, what is accomplished. That will help. That might change the rating or the reviews that was given as well. So that's the one feedback I would like to. And the second thing is from a I was talking to Paul about it from a school rating improvement perspective. We spoke about in the first meeting when we had in your office, I believe, right? So we are comparing ourselves with similar school zones. And during our last presentation, I think Office of the Teaching presentation, we were comparing with 10 other schools of the similar school zones. But I think rather than that, we should, since we have the infrastructure, we have the tools and support that we have. Of course, we do have some constraints in budget and things like that, but we still have a lot of support and a lot of infrastructure needed for the school. We should compete with some schools which are in the top levels, like from a rating point of view, like top 25 schools or top 50 schools. That's where we can move forward to achieve. We'll see what is needed to move to go up the ladder and achieve that. If we compare among our school, similar school zones, we might be stronger in that, but we'll not be able to see what's happening outside. Even for this AI, right? So we can see how we can go and explore how the other school zones have implemented or in the process of implementation. So that will give us some kind of information to move forward, right? So always look for something higher and then see where we lack and move towards that. That would be one of my feedback as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Reese?
Yeah, I want to thank my colleagues up here. I think this was being my first time through this process. It was a very interesting process, and seeing the report come back and getting to see the diversity of perspectives and sometimes similar sentiments expressed different ways or with different evidence to support those perspectives was just both interesting and left me feeling confident that as a team we've provided, I think, a pretty thorough review with hopefully useful feedback to you, Mr. Gier. I guess one thing that I would comment that doesn't really show up, at least in what I commented in the evaluation, that I'm particularly grateful for, is what Franklin gets with you at the helm because of, like, as a result of passion or creative thinking or seeking solutions that are kind of outside just, well, it's not in the budget, so we can't do it. You know, things like how our food services are run, things like your passion for the monument to intimidate opposing teams coming up Panther. You know, I think that those are things that like kind of are still related to the goals here in terms of you know, community culture and the like, but that, you know, are not specifically reflected in the goals as they've been defined. So I wanted to emphasize that. And I have a comment related to communication that I didn't have an opportunity to share in the review because it was only brought to me by a community member over the weekend. But I thought was useful feedback to share, and I thought to do so here in the meeting, just so for, you know, for that level of accountability to the community, which was that they had requested two things. One, for when it comes to communication from the school district and from individual schools particularly, that printed flyers in the backpack are their preference that for highly important things. I am grateful to that community member that they also recognize that there's a cost associated with that you know, might make that harder to you know, either less feasible or just you know, that it would mean adjusting the budget and maybe it's not worth taking money out of somewhere else to do that. But the other thing they commented, which I think is more actionable, is that the way in which parents are receiving communication via a link in an email means that communication from the schools is non-searchable in their inbox. And I think this is an issue worth trying to address because you know, they gave an example, like, I know I got an email about field day, but if I search my inbox for field day, I don't get any results. So how do I find that information? But overall, I think you did a great job, and I hope the feedback is helpful. Thank you.
The answer is they listened to a school committee meeting because I have listed them for the last 2 months. Plaguing myself here. First, I want to thank my fellow committee members for the effort put forth in this evaluation. I really enjoyed reading everyone else's comments and kicking myself for not thinking of them as well. But compiling all of this information into one succinct document, I think it was done very well. To Lucas and your team, I watched last year's superintendent evaluation meeting to sort of get ideas in my head as to what the progress over the past year. And it was right after the override failed, and there was a very heavy-weighted mood in the room. And then we got to Lucas making a final statement, and the positivity and the confidence that you exude as a professional at all times is what truly, I think, just lifts up this community and your team members and this committee. And I just wanted to speak to that because I think just as you represent this department in the grand scheme of things as the town as a whole, I just think that you earn that respect across all departments in the way that you prioritize the school, but you also prioritize every other department and don't want to take away from any other department as a result. And I think that just speaks volumes of your integrity, and I admire that as a school committee member and a community member and a parent. I don't have much else to say. I think the evaluation is fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. Hal?
You haven't had it easy coming in. I mean, as a superintendent, new superintendent, you've tackled more than superintendents that have been seasoned for 15, 20 plus years in terms of what you've had to go through with the override, the budgets, the redistricting, and you're handling things extremely well. So thank you for being here, and as Nadia said, you're definitely a rock for the community, you're the educators, so that we can go through these troubling times. So I'm hoping that we have some quieter times and you know, things are a little bit easier. I mean, thinking of just when you first started into where you're at now, consistent growth, and once again, meeting the challenges. One thing that I just looking forward to next year in terms of the goals is, can we get maybe a school committee provided goal? Because I think of like myself at work, I have my personal goals, but however, I do have my goals from my leaders as well that cascade down to me. And these are stretch goals. So what else can we add? Maybe just different. Maybe it's just one goal that the school committee comes together to define in addition to your personal goals and how you want to operate. So I think that's really the only thing, just to change things as to how things have been performing over the past few years. But other than that, it's been a solid year.
Thank you.
You make this easy on us to do. And do you take a picture of this and send it in the superintendent group chat to be like, Dr. Goody can't look what I got? Really though, it's not even mentioned when everybody else is kind of going and talking and where we get to read everybody else's comments. There's so much alignment because of the commendable job that you do, and that then really kind of trickles down to every staff member here in the Franklin Public School District. This is as much of a reflection on you as it is the entire district. And we are extremely lucky that you decided to continue to work here, that you re-upped during all of the override failures and everything. You decided, yes, I want to stick around for another 6 years. And we are very grateful. So I appreciate all the work that you do. And this is a true, honest reflection. I think there's, we would be critical when that's needed. It's just, you do a phenomenal job, so please keep it up. Although you probably could coast for a little bit and still do well.
I don't know when that is, but.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting summation of the past year when you really break it down and look at things. There's definitely feedback sometimes, I've heard in the community where it's like, oh, we all just say great job, pat you on the back, and kind of go our own way. And we'll be able to post this online so people can see. But really, when you look at this, it shows a very realistic and a very honest accounting of everything that's been done. And I think that, looking at the overall ratings there, it says a lot with all the different ways that, you were evaluated, people. And I think the comments were really pretty interesting because, you have some things where you saw, like an exemplary rating, and you go through the commendations, and they're like, great, yes, I remember those. And then the recommendations, and it's really that either, hey, here's a couple of spots that it was fantastic, but we can improve, or it's that, all right, well, how can we do even more? And that, I think, is really reflective of the work that you've done, but then also the support that you have from this committee, in that we want to see all of this succeed. It is very much so a group effort. It's not something where, because we're just as much part of this, as Al was saying, we go through and we work with the goals and trying to set them. And there was some discussion around weighting it. Not this year. But, I definitely think that is one of those other ways we can look at things, Al, is like having that discussion on the front end of weighting instead of at the end when it's like, great, how'd everything go? Now let's weight things as we're setting those goals. Say this is that goal that one's going to be 30%. It's not just 25 each, or that one's going to be 25 and we have 5 goals total, so that we can try to balance that out. But do appreciate the effort, and I just kind of share with the school committee. I did receive feedback from Lucas earlier today that very clearly indicated he's gone through all of this. There was very specific references to the comments and recommendations that were made, showing that this is really, it is taken very seriously, and there's clearly notes ready to go for next year already. So we appreciate the efforts. We appreciate the continued service, of you and your team. You were very clear in calling out the fact that, you were rated as an individual, but it is on, with an entire staff that does a lot of work and really fantastic work. So I appreciate that. I know we appreciate that. And I don't know if you have anything that you want to say before we kind of close things out.
I just would say, one, thank you for taking the time, the care, the thoughtfulness to review the evidence and really look at this, as a summation of not just my work, but the work of the district. I know it's my review, but it was very clear the depth of the commendations and recommendations that this was truly, you put a lot of thought into that. I think that's the best way that I can grow and continue to try to do the best job that I can, and I think we need evaluations like that demonstrate that. I'm very proud of these accomplishments. I would also say that the progress reflected this year is not mine alone. I'll just say it again, the leadership team around me in every area and every aspect, and the folks that work for us at all levels. I said that at the evidence presentation as well, but I truly mean that. It's really about the system that I happen to be in the position of leading. So, and I'm grateful for all of you for the support, because the other thing, I could show a screenshot to the superintendents, but I also know they don't have the same supportive school committee that we have in Franklin. And we've been through some pretty tumultuous times over the years, and to have a group of 7 individuals have your own independent thoughts on views on things, but also always think about yourselves as a cohesive body that represents this town and a town that I live in as well. I just appreciated it not just as a superintendent, but as a parent and as a resident. I think it's important that you function in a way that works that way. The last thing I would just say is I take those recommendations seriously, as Dr. Griffith mentioned, but also thinking about next year. There's already planning in place that I will incorporate many of these goals, and I think it's the perfect time for me to get this feedback, because we're about to embark next week. We have we call it our pre-treat, where we start to establish, we debrief the year, but then look ahead. And how do we want to spend our summer with our focus groups on moving some of the individual tasks along, only to arrive in August at the retreat. And that's when we really start to goal set. So thinking about some of the feedback of how do we design the goals and the outcomes and the evidence and the data in the outset. We're trying to get better every year at that, but ultimately I think we will be in a much better position to continue that work, and I think deliver next year on evidence that meets some of the expectations that you've referenced in your feedback as well. And the last thing is I would just say it's a privilege to serve in this community and work with the folks and the team that I have with me, many who are in this room, and you too, Steve. And just thank you again for the partnership, for the support of me and the belief in me, and I just appreciate it. So thank you. The feedback is taken seriously. I appreciate the ratings, and I'm going to work hard to continue to improve based on what was said.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right. So seeing none, vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
So moving into discussion only items.
So we have a monthly financial report in your packet. We're happy to answer any questions that folks may have.
Just a comment. Jana, amazing job as always. I will always look through them, and before I have questions, and the way you've crafted it, it's very easy to understand, transparent, clear. Just appreciate the thought you put into this. So.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anything else? All right. Excellent. Thank you very much. So moving on, we have information matters. So this is fun evening, all kinds of fun updates. So superintendent evaluation, well, we saw the sum of what we do for an entire year put together in that document. So a lot of thanks to Stephen and Ruth Ann for supporting with that committee, and everyone for really putting in a ton of effort. It was really hard going through and kind of trying to select some of the comments. And, you know, it's all random, so I'm sitting there trying to like really collect the thoughts of what the committee has shared. But it was very clear, you know, as Lucas said, there was a lot of time spent in not just selecting the ratings, but then providing clear feedback behind it. That really meant a lot to us. And I know, you know, went to creating a much more efficient document in the long run. So that's superintendent evaluation. Budget, the end of it all is tomorrow. So town council is gonna be meeting to vote on the budget. I'll be there, I believe Lucas and team will be there as well. Anyone who wants to watch, feel free. If you want to show up, that's fine. We will keep an eye on quorum, and that really only matters with if people speak. Basically, we can't have 4 people speak at the meeting, but whoever wants to show up and have their comments known, if they do allow it, you know, again, for us, it would be at community comment, because it's not an open hearing. There's not this guarantee of us being able to speak. But letting everyone know, budget, you know, is finalized tomorrow. At that point in time, I'll just use this as kind of a somewhat proper plug. We don't have another meeting until August. Okay. Yeah. Unless there's a change to our budget.
You have slated in your calendar the June 23rd
Yep.
Tuesday night, and typically it's up to the committee to decide if there's work and business that needs to be done. You hold it, but ultimately it's a discussion. You would want to communicate directly with Dr. Griffith on your sentiments on that, but ultimately that's a decision for the school committee chair to make.
Yeah, so, and in many instances, you know, that's the last week. We definitely sit and talk about that, but it would be very critical to have that if there's any change to our budget. If there's a change to our budget, we have to meet, we have to reallocate, we have to adjust. If not, we can basically, we'll figure out what topics may or may not be needed that week. All right? Awesome. So, budget's done, policy. Dave.
All right, policy met just a few hours ago. We got some new stuff coming to everybody at the next school committee meeting, TBD, including one thing we kind of, it's been nice, so many of the policies have kind of been like state or federal regulations that we've just had to kind of come up and adopt. We're now finally getting to the point where it's stuff that the committee kind of brings up. Nadia, we kind of spoke about making field trip permission slips kind of more uniform across the district. Reese, a while ago, kind of talked about like good of the order, when does that happen, and kind of have this idea of really kind of folding in like good of the order and a point of pride, the old tip of the cap. It just into one committee member comment, thanks to Steve, where we might be able to kind of just go, and instead of having to shoehorn in various comments, just at the committee comment, you can say things like, for the community that's out there, this coming Sunday, Franklin Fathers is having their kickball tournament, where we have team executive session, a number of pretty much almost all of the school committee members, town council, we have department heads as well. It's going to be a fantastic game. They'll have a dunk tank with a number of local celebrities. They'll have some incredible raffle prizes. I think there's one, it's like a $650 gift card to a collection of Rhode Island hotels. Just some incredible things. Poor Richards donated an 8-person wine tasting.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you're not there for the kickball, a lot of great things. There's food trucks, there's lawn games for the kids. It's going to be just a great family-friendly event. And that's this Sunday, the 14th. From 9 to 3, and it's at Beaver Pond Field. Just note that Beaver Street itself is going to be closed off. DPW kind of started throwing out a new traffic update, but you can just go down, cut down Grove Street, and then head on over there. Weather should be fantastic. So that's one of the policies. So that way there's going to be a proper opportunity to kind of talk about some of those things. And then we'll kind of figure out when the next meeting, we may meet at some point over the summer. We'll see.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Community relations, Al?
Yep, so our next meeting is on the 15th, but before that, we do have Strawberry Stroll, which is on Friday the 13th. Is it really the 13th? No.
The 12th.
12th, okay. I didn't think it was Friday the 12th, from 4 to 8. So we will be there. We have some material, so budget material, bus registration material, PCC registration material, lifelong learning. So we have a lot of just good information for the families. We also have our calendars, so you guys all should see the magnetic calendars on your desk or table. Superintendent Jagir, there's a stack for you and your staff to hand them out.
You got to pass them out?
Yes. So with some goodies, we'll have some things for the kids. Dave and the Horseman Legacy Subcommittee has put together some raffle and some pamphlets from there as well. So really informative, fun day. Looking at the weather, it's supposed to be beautiful that day. So last year was amazing. Hopefully we have more turnout this year. So that's coming up. As I said, our last meeting is on the 15th for the year. We'll have another newsletter shortly after to close the year, and then we'll kick it back off in the. Oh, I forgot. Nadia got us great T-shirts. So if you have not seen this, we have our Franklin School Committee T-shirts that we will be wearing at the Strawberry Stroll, so you can't miss us. And then we'll return next year. So.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to that. And yes, Friday, because I definitely thought it was on Saturday. But no, it's Friday. Friday the 12th.
Yes. 12th.
Yes.
Saturday's the rain date.
Yes.
But no rain.
No rain.
No rain.
No rain.
It'll be on the
Exactly.
12th.
All right, Horseman Legacy Committee, Dave?
Yeah, we got some great things, actually, as Al mentioned. One of them, do you have a copy of the trifold?
Oh, yeah, sure.
We have, so the committee have put together this, really shout out to Kip Bradley. Thank you. This amazing trifold that kind of talks about the Horseman legacy, a lot of the work that we've done up until this point, along with the QR code where you can make the direct donation that we have for the revolving account. Which I want to thank you so much for taking care of that. Along with the email address. We now have Horseman has his own Franklin PS email address. Colin, thank you. And so that's all included here in this trifold. We'll have a number of copies available at the school committee booth and also at the Historical Museum as well. Along with a Horseman themed scavenger hunt kind of all around the Strawberry Stroll, which is going to be fantastic. And lastly, I think this occurred in between our last meetings. I apologize if I already stated this, but the campus design team did a walk around during the campus itself. We had Colin was our bus driver. We jumped on the white van and he kind of brought us around to a bunch of different spots. But then we jumped out, walked around the high school, the middle school, ECDC, really just to kind of gather up a lot of ideas about what this may look like. Because again, just to kind of reiterate, one of the big purposes when the school committee voted back in August was both to kind of name the grounds as a Horseman campus, but then come up with a recommendation of what does that actually mean. So the intent would be hopefully in the May 2027, the Horseman Legacy Subcommittee would then kind of come back to the school committee, present out the recommendations. Here's all the stuff that we do. Here's how much, the cost that might be, the money that was already raised, so that we can kind of figure out, look for, approval and, additional steps along the way. So got a lot of fun stuff happening. And next meeting will be at some point over the summer, also TBD.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay, add one thing.
Yeah.
I almost forgot. So for our magnet, as always, it's designed by a Franklin High School student. This year, Jack Marshall, who's the class of 2028, he was the one that his design was selected. So just want to give him a shout out and kudos for the work that he did.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I always love that every year designed by the students. So fantastic. Joint PCC, Nadia?
Yeah, before I even go into my report, I agree. There were so many submissions of magnets. It was really, really challenging to pick. So thank you to all the students who put forth an effort. Fantastic work. The next JPCC will not be until the next school year, but this is the a last rundown of events before the end of the year. There are many school events. So as mentioned earlier, ECDC is having their fun fair on June 22nd. Lincoln Street. The library is collecting donations to add to their most popular book collections. You can send books in with your students or drop them off at the school. Tomorrow is Mr. Mike Day at Lincoln Street. He is our longtime custodian who is retiring, and students are encouraged to wear blue just to honor him. The end of year celebration is also tomorrow from 5 to 7 at the high school, and there will be foam, so bring a towel. There's also a fundraiser with Paizonis tomorrow from 3 to 7. Mention Lincoln Street Elementary when you order. 3 to 5 field day is on the 16th. And on the 23rd is the 5th grade dance. On the 24th is the 5th grade moving up ceremony with a breakfast and yearbook signing. At Washington Street, field day is on the 12th, and the 5th grade moving up ceremony is the 16th. At the middle school, there is a dining out raillery fundraiser on the 15th from 4 to 10 p.m. and mention FMS PCC when ordering. Field days for 7th grade are the 11th and 8th grade is the 15th. I believe they might still be looking for donations, so check the sign-up Genius. The 8th grade dance is on the 23rd, and the 8th grade breakfast is on the 25th. Step-up ceremonies will be for Phoenix on the 22nd, Griffin on the 23rd, and Illuminators on the 24th. And just thank you to all the PCC boards, members, volunteers, for everyone who participated to make these events possible. So, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And SWAC and mental health?
Yes, so SWAC has been done for the year, of course. So we'll look forward to coming back together in September. Mental Health Task Force had our last meeting on the 27th. And we did some kind of good summation stuff at the time. I want to first give a shout out to Rebecca Ballinger, who works over at Lincoln. Actually, Paula, can you help me with her title?
She's the school adjustment counselor at Lincoln.
Thank
3
you.
to 5.
Rebecca's the school adjustment counselor over at Lincoln. She's been working with fifth graders there about online safety. And then she's going to give that same presentation to interested parents. And she said that a lot of parents were very interested in getting that same information, both getting some insight into how we are educating the kiddos about online safety, and I think very likely helpful information for parents to have as well. So thank you to Rebecca for going kind of above and beyond there in both, you know, building community and kind of making sure we extend that education to everyone interested. In kind of planning next year, we reviewed a report from the JED Foundation, which is oriented towards supporting high schools in suicide prevention and other aspects of promoting mental health. We participated in a 3-year study that went from 2023 to 2026, and we received the study at, before this most recent meeting, and we got to discuss it. A lot of really encouraging metrics. There was a 37 percentage point increase in ratings of whether the high school encourages free and open discussion about mental and emotional health. This was a change from 40% of students responding affirmatively to 77%. The rating that students gave to whether mental and emotional health is a priority at Franklin High went from 49 to 59% of students rating that affirmatively. And there was a 7% increase in rating it as a good, as whether there is a good support system at Franklin High for students going through difficult times. And to contextualize that 7% increase, that was from 86 to 93%, so it was already quite high. And we closed that gap by 50%, so that's fantastic. We also got some concerning news from the report, though, which was a big increase in the frequency of students reportedly feeling isolated from campus life. This went up from 25% in 2023 to 42% in 2026. And that is, in my opinion, a pretty big concern, and that metric was the focus of most of the rest of the discussion at the meetings, thinking about how do we address this. I did bring that measurement into our superintendent's report, so to make sure, I'm sure Mr. Jagir was already aware, but to kind of highlight it as a potential area of focus for next year. And in terms of the mental health and well-being task force, we all were pretty aligned that that's the thing that we're thinking about now. So we'll be coming back together, I assume in September, is that right?
That is correct.
And continuing that discussion about ways to help connect students to the community, ways to help build that community, and support students who are feeling isolated from campus life. Thanks to everybody who was part of that group this past year. It was great working with them all.
Thank you. All right. So then after this, we have the consent agenda.
I recommend approval of the minutes from your May 26, 2026 meeting as detailed. I recommend the acceptance of $1,000, a Fidelity charitable donation honoring the Fernando P. Baglioni Memorial as detailed. I recommend the acceptance of $2,972.72 from Shutterfly for supplemental supplies as detailed. I recommend the acceptance of $15.94 from Ohio Pile for supplemental supplies as detailed.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as detailed?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Are there any discussion or questions? All right, seeing none, vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Being the first meeting of the month, we do have good of the order. So as Dave was kind of alluding to in the policy, the idea here is to really kind of focus on things that we can do to improve the meeting structure, how we're performing things and how we're doing things in our, during this process. So if anyone has any suggestions, this is a wonderful time to do so. If not, move on. All right, excellent. So then moving into new business. Lucas?
Okay, so new business, we talked a little bit about the budget hearing that will happen tomorrow. If there's any change, I'm sorry? Budget vote, thank you. Yes, that's an important distinction. So we have the budget vote tomorrow. If there's any change to your voted on budget, we would need to meet again. We typically have done that in a special meeting just for the expediency of wanting to finalize our budget for the year, but you still have the 23rd on the books as well. But ultimately, if there's some change to the bottom line of our budget, that would be a time where we would probably have a special meeting. We've done them virtually in the past, depending on the scope and magnitude. So, and it would be just for that purpose, typically, is how we've done those. So that's what you can look forward to there. Other than that, we will conclude the school year on June 25th by and large, and just that's really the work.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, I know we had talked about this, it may have been email, around Portrait of the Graduate and academic recognition. Just want to make sure that we at least have that for at this point, but the start of the new year.
Yes. So I had a note for the spring, but when we looked at the calendar, the minute we shifted to do the joint meeting for the strategic plan, it shifted a few of our other items, which pushed us out to where we are today with the pace. So we will make sure that stays on the forefront, and we'll make sure that we do something in the spring. I mean, in the fall.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any others? No? All right, excellent. So finally, we'll be adjourning to executive session. We'll not be returning to open meeting. pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 213, subsection 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body and the chair so declares. Is there a motion to adjourn into executive session as discussed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vote will come to the motion. A roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
Nadia?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Dave? Yep. Myself, yes. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. We'll see.